Welcome along, everybody. Welcome to the show here in España for round 8, I think it is, of the silver of the 100% League Season 3. We are here then in the Circuit de Catalunya, Barcelona, of all places. Then a very, very classic track to the circuit now, of course. that we've become accustomed to, of course, here as well then. But we have got some action firstly on track then for New Zealand Cam. Then he is out of box. Our first man on track then. I'm not having a great time through turn one, boys, but there we are. It's only that lap, so there we go. Good stuff indeed then. So we have got ourselves a qualifying first, of course. Usually that's the way it works, but we've got 17 minutes left of the qualifying session now for the 19 drivers to set a time. Unfortunately, Vintage, who is off to Zandvoort then to watch some Formula 1 racing, I think. This weekend is unfortunately not going to be racing tonight then, but hopefully he'll be back then next week. But of course the reserve who was in his place has not showed up as well, so fantastic stuff indeed. 19 drivers then to take on the circuit to Catalunya, and we will see how they're going to fare as we get ourselves through this qualifying and then into the 66 laps then of the race itself. Of course, a much shorter layout than this circuit now that they've removed the final horrible bit that we didn't like, but they've got it now sorted, and we've now got ourselves a bit of a quicker lap time as Cam then struggling on the curbs then as well. Then hopefully he can get that sorted for the for his outing, I should say, that in qualifying in his first run, and Moon was back in the pit lane. So unfortunately for Moon, I'm not quite sure what's happening there. I think Moon might have a qualifying man. I'm not quite sure. I can't remember. My goodness me, my memory is not with me tonight then. Definitely not with me most days, to be fair, but Moomin has got himself switched on then, at least, which is good stuff indeed. Then on the hard compound tyres, I just noticed, was Cam. Yes, that is an interesting choice of tyre for qualifying at least, but maybe he's doing a bit of race practice here as well then as we go in towards turn 4 now. Purple, of course, is on intermediate compound tyres, even worse than the hards, but looking good then with the intermediates on that kick salver at least then. So we will skip off of him and onto his teammate, who is Young Lights tonight, then reserving in place of Lucas Percy. He's on soft compound tyres and into sector 2, I should say, then going purple, of course, in sector 1 then. Very fast stuff indeed then for Young Lights then in the kick salver. Moomin has retired, so I think Moomin was well ahead of me and actually queued up or clued up into what was going on here, because I didn't have a clue then. And there we go then. Young Lights then up the hill then towards turn 9. Cox Corner, if you were very familiar with that one a very long time ago, then that is where Jonathan Cox then had a massive crash going over the top of that hill. But thankfully for Young Lights, he's kept it in the track limits then, almost within the track limits then, as he's losing the back end then into the new hairpin. Purple in sector 2 then, now over the crest of the hill then down towards the final couple of turns. Then there's only 2 turns left then after they removed that chicane section now, which is nice stuff indeed. Then up to the line then for Young Lights, a 12.9 to set us underway then in qualifying. Cam has done a 17.3, but of course he's on the intermediate compound tyre, so we don't need to worry too much about him until he gets himself onto a set of dry compounds, that is, for the rest of qualifying. 14 minutes remain then. Here comes Kiki into the end of the middle of sector 3, then in towards the end of sector 3 now, powering down the hill then into the penultimate turn, then now flicking it into the final turn as Kamara races down 12.6 then to set himself underway. But here comes Kiki, his teammate then. What's it going to be for Kiki? It's a 12.6 as well then. He is 14 thousandths of a second ahead of his teammate Kamara Racer, who's in P2 now. R2 beat then a 13.04. The Aston Martin gets himself up into P4. Then Jitter with a 13.3 then puts himself P5 for the time being. Where is Coop? Coop is coming up the hill then through turns 6 and 7. And now in towards that dreaded long right-hander at the top of the hill, then powering down the middle straight then with some DRS. Then there's a kick salver just getting out of the way then, thankfully. And now in towards sector 3 then for the Williams driver. Then let's see if we can handle this Titan technical circuit, part of the circuit, I should say. That it's not too tight, not like Monaco, for example, which we've done and dusted here in 100% League already. And we don't have to look at that anymore then as we go through the final corner then for Coop. Up to the line then for Coop, then it's a 13.5, puts himself P6 for the time being then. Good stuff indeed. Then KD is on circuit as well. Then he is reserving in place of Mumford, or actually both Hasses have got reserves in then for Mumford and for Keys. Unfortunately, Keys having a trip to hospital tonight, so hopefully he'll be a-okay then, and we will have some good news then on Keys then for the next remainder of the races, remainder of the season, that is. But fingers crossed then, best wishes to him as well then. And here comes KD then, looking to put on a good performance then in his place as well then, around into the penultimate turn then for the Haas driver, then down the hill then towards the final corner, then flicking the car in then and powering to the line. Then let's see what it's going to be then for his first outing in qualifying. At 12.9 puts himself P3 and 0.02 of a second ahead of Young Lights then, who is down to P4. by 2 times a second as well then. Good stuff indeed then. Brilliant from KD then, his first outing. Here comes Ginger Rage then. Goodness me, we're going to be terrified of this one as Ginger Rage then is starting off a lap then, his first lap here in qualifying as well, as we go into sector 2. 22.5 in the first sector. Let's see whether that's going to be good enough. It's not purple just yet, but of course we will see what Ginger Rage can do. Can he go purple in sector 2 and 3 then and get himself on pole position here? We will find out in less than a minute's time now, because he's coming round now into sector 2 and up the hill then, making sure he keeps within track limits. Then he's done a very good job of that indeed, and now in towards that long right hander, flicking the car in and hoping it sticks then as we go down the back straight, I should say, then with DRS then in towards the hairpin as well then. 52.5, goodness me, I'm not 25, 52.5 then from Ginger Rage in sector 2 then, almost going over the curbs. Then that unsettled Cam then earlier on in qualifying on his outlet, that might unsettle Ginger Rage in the McLaren, but not so much then. He's not fussed at all then, down the hill towards the final quarter then for Ginger Rage. And let's see what it's going to be then for the McLaren driver then. DRS up to the line, it's a it's a P9, sorry, it's a 14.7 for the McLaren driver, puts himself in the top 10 for the time being as well then. Good stuff indeed. Then we had Chappers jump up the order then. It was a 12.8 then for the Haas reserve, then up into P4 then for Chappers. Good stuff indeed. Ginger Rage cruising right round then. Equise up into a 12.7 then in the Williams, and great stuff indeed. Then onto the second row of the grid then for his first attempt in qualifying then. Very close at the top then as Rocket Lee then up into a 12.6 as well. And he's done an identical time to a pole sitter, or current pole sitter then, of Kiki. 12.659 then puts himself a joint P1 I should say, but of course because Kiki has set the time first in this session, or earlier in the session, he has got that time allocated before the Ferrari of Rocket Lee then. So Rocket Lee then is currently P2 then, but he has or the calculator or the timing screen cannot compute it within 3 decimal places then, so unfortunately it's going to have to go down to 4, but we can't do that in this game or in real life either, unfortunately. So yeah, so both times are identical then for pole position stands, looking quite good indeed out there for Rocket Lee in the Ferrari, splitting both the racing balls into P2 as it stands as well then. Here comes Gordo then. Gordo I think is just starting off another lap then, because he's not used much battery on this one, so we're going to cross the line then. He is going to set a time on this lap as well actually, but it's a 14.8 then, so he starts off another lap here as well then for the Aston Martin driver. Then Farf then coming round into sector 2 very shortly indeed as well then on his first flying lap as well then. Rocket Lee coming back into the pit lane I think. Then Jenner is back out on circuit as well then on soft compound tyres. Coop back out there as well then. Ginger Rage is cruising through into, he's invalidated unfortunately, so he's had a problem then in turns 1, 2 or 3, but there we go then. Jenner coming through into sector 3 now as well then in the Mercedes. Let's see what he can do on a 13.3 currently, then down the hill into the penultimate corner, then into the final turn once again then for the Mercedes driver. Then let's see what he can do here. Can he improve? Can he get himself further up the order? Yes he can then. It's a 12.3 then for Jenner, then puts himself on pole position by 0.3 of a second or just over, and looking quite comfortable indeed then from the Mercedes driver then. Fantastic stuff indeed. Kamara Racer is back out on circuit. He's almost 0.2 up on in his first sector, and that would look to try and steal away that pole position from Ginner as well then. Good stuff indeed. But Ginner then looking strong then in his first, or his improved outing in qualifying. That's his second attempt then. The first driver I think to make 2 attempts in qualifying so far then. 5 then up into P11 with a 13.6 then in the Alpine. Here comes Gordon then up into P10, a 13.0 for him. Puts himself into the top 10 then on his second attempt. Good stuff indeed then out in front. Where is Kamara Racer again? Into sector 3 we go now for Kamara. Then let's see what he can do. Can he improve any further? Then can he steal away that pole position? Then what can he do in the racing ball? Then through the final corner we go then, flying up to the line then for Kamara. It's going to be not an improvement unfortunately for Kamara. Then he's lost a lot of time then in sector 2 or 3, and that has meant he couldn't improve on his previous lap time there. So good stuff indeed. Well, not good stuff indeed, as Young Lights has improved to a 12.6 then up into P4, then knocking down Kamara Racer to P5 then unfortunately for Kamara's sake. But good luck, good stuff indeed, sorry, for Young Lights then onto the second row of the grid then alongside Rocket Lee, and looking good indeed I should say. Then Farf then back out there harvesting some more energy, and Ginger Rage unfortunately invalidating again then, so he's going to have to come back into the pit lane very soon. And Coop then is on a lap then. Coop coming through up the hill towards sector 2. Let's see what Coop's going to be doing then. He's going to be looking to improve then on a 13.5 then, his first time in qualifying. Then here he comes then. He is 4:10s up on his time. That's going to be pretty impressive improvement then if he can keep it together. Then, oh dear, he's had a bit of a squirrely moment then out of the hairpin, and that might have been costly indeed. Then I think Ginger Ray's in the McLaren is having a few issues out there as well, so he is back in the pit lane now. Here comes Coop then down the hill. Let's see what he can do to finish off his second attempt in qualifying here. Then up to the line then for Coop. It is a 13-1. Then he has improved by 0.4 of a second, but he stays P11 now. Unfortunately, that gap then to Gordo in P10 was a bit too far away then for the liking then of the Williams driver. Then good stuff indeed. Where else? Who else? I should say. Then who else is next? Who is next? I should say. It's going to be KD. Then KD in at the Haas. Then up to P2 then from P9, then a massive improvement, then a 3.3 tenths, I should say, up into P2 on the front row of the grid, then a 12.6 as well. Then great stuff indeed. Kiki unfortunately has invalidated his tyre then, so he's not going to be able to improve. Then Young Lights is back out on the lap as well. Then Chapper's coming through sector 3 now. Where is Coop? Then he's further back, so let's see what Chapper's can do in the other Haas. Then can we get another Haas further up the order then from P9 once again? Then can he improve just like his teammate then to take away some big positions then from the rest of the order then up the grid, and it's P8 then. He has improved then by 74 thousandths of a second then, but he takes away that place then from Equaz into P8 then. Good stuff indeed. Right, then we've got, that's not Young Lights, that is New Zealand Cam then starting off a lap. Then we've got a Racing Bull, that's of Kiki then coming back to the pit lane. No, he's going to go again. Yes, he's coming back to the pit lane as Kiki. Unfortunately invalidating on his previous attempt then, so that is that done and dusted. And Equaz is on an outlap as well. No, he's not. Yes, he is, but he's having a few, he's going very slowly on that outlap then, unfortunately for Equaz. So he'll be cruising back around then again. Young Lights then coming back into the pit lane as well then, so he is done and dusted here as well, qualifying for Serious Mushroom. Then goodness me, so what, Serious Mushroom is qualifying here with 5.5 minutes left to go. Then here he comes up to the line, then it's a 12.8, then puts himself P10 slap bang in the middle of the grid. Good stuff indeed. Then there's a Haas coming back into the box as well. Then that's KD then, who's currently got himself onto the front row of the grid here as well. Then good stuff indeed. R2B then flying down the hill then towards the final corner then for the Aston Martin driver. P7 currently. Can he improve further? Let's see what it's going to be. It's pole position for R2B then, last week's race winner as well then in Canada, and he is looking pretty formidable then to repeat the feat. Then here he goes into this dying moments of qualifying. Then Rocket Lee then P2 with a 12.2 as well, so the time's tumbling in now. The Ferrari driver then on the front row. Goodness me, as we've got it's all sun for Ginger Rage then. Wet race by the looks of things, has Gordo then, and can you pause the session? I'm still putting my setup on, says Ginger Rage then. He has got his setup on hopefully this time, so fingers crossed he can crack on now for the rest of qualifying. 4.5 minutes left of the session. Then Jinner is back out on circuit. Then Jinner looking to improve. Jinner then having a bit of a snap. Then he's off into the gravel there at the exit of the hairpin then, and getting himself back on circuit. Then luckily nobody about to get it in the way of. But there we go. Then Serious Mushroom back in the pit lane. Then P10 currently then on his first attempt in qualifying. Cam is back out on circuit as well. Then going into he's going a bit slowly then into sector 2 then. So I think he's just cruising back round now. Williams then of no, it's not Williams. Sorry, it's a Racing Bull. Racing Bull then of goodness me. I'm not quite sure Cam is aware then there's a Racing Bull of Kamara Racer right behind him there. And Cam is going to be in a bit of trouble then, I think, with Kamara Racer after the event. Then potentially got himself out of the way just in time. Then I'm not quite sure from the angle that we were looking at, but there we are. And there we go. Kamara Racer is improving on his time still, so I don't think it was too much impeded then from the kick Sauber then. So that is that then. Good evening then from IRS or LB I should say then. Good stuff indeed. Hello from Moomin as well then. Good luck for everyone tonight then. Good luck to all the drivers tonight as well. Evening from Serious Mushroom as well then. Here comes Kamara Racer then to finish off his lap then. Lots it going to be, and it's going to be another lap not improved I should say. Goodness me, there we got the words out eventually, but unfortunately for Kamara Racer, it seems to be losing a lot of time then compared to his previous attempts then in sector 3 then. So there we are then. I think where they've got R2B back out on circuit as well. R2B is going into sector 2 then. He's 71 thousandths up on his time, and that would put him into the 12.1s, that is, as it stands, that is. If he can keep it all together then. Not so much then into the the right hander then of sector 3 then. He has cost himself a bit of a spin then, or half spin then, and got himself back in the pit lane. Then Kamara Racer then is coming back round then to finish off his in lap. Now Farf is coming across the line then to finish off his flying lap though, and Farf is not improving unfortunately for him then. So he stays P14. Then Ginger Rage is back out on circuit. Ginger Rage is 3.5 tenths up on his previous lap then, but he has used up quite a lot of battery then onto that into that first sector. So that is going to be bad news for the rest of the lap, I would imagine, but we'll have to wait and see as we go down towards turn 5 and 6 here as well then. Sorry, 6 and 7 I should say then, as unfortunately invalidating going over the curbs then. Oh dear. And going over the curbs again then for Ginger Rage then. So that was getting a bit dicey out there indeed then. I don't think he's got, has he got enough time? He might have enough time if he can get himself back in quickly. Then Kamara Racer has retired in the pit lane. He is done and dusted in qualifying, not going to be starting any higher than P7 in this one. Ginger Rage said, I don't think he's going to get 1-2 then with Mushroom, unfortunately. Probably Rain, don't trust Cody's then, and Let's Go, says Rocket Lee as well. Then currently he is on the front row of the grid, then is Rocket Lee reserving in place of Sick as Muck, who's on holiday in Canada of all places. He is holidaying there this week and next week, I believe. Then he is having a nice little end of summer vacation, which is very nice indeed. Then Farf is coming into the pit lane. Farf there, I think, is done and dusted in qualifying here as well. Then same as Ginger Rage, then unfortunately. Oh no, Ginger Rage is going for it again then, so he's got enough time on the board then, he's got enough ERS, he's got enough fuel to go for another attempt. Here is the McLaren driver then, good stuff indeed. Where is the Haas driver then? It is just KD starting off another lap then, going down that main straight. Then Rocket Lee then in close pursuit as we head down into the final laps of qualifying here. Then Equaz starting off a lap as well then, as is Chappers. There are yellow flags fluttering out there for a who is that? It's for Young Lights, and I think Young Lights has had an issue somewhere. Yes, he has. Well, he's got himself he's got himself some harvesting to do then before he can start off another lap. Then he's got time to do it, so we'll have to wait and see what he can do then in the latter stages. Then Jinner then on circuit. Jinner not improving on his current time then as it stands. Then into sector 2. Then can he find some time? Then no, he can't. He's had a snap then as well into sector 3. Then Farf retires in the pit lane. He is done and dusted in qualifying. Jinner then is coming up to the Jinner is coming into the pit lane, and unfortunately for Jinner then that is him done and dusted as well. Then R2 Beat has timed it perfectly then to start off a lap. There were 10 seconds remaining in the qualifying here. Where is the Williams of Coop? Then Coop up into P8 I should say. Then Jinner retires in P3, not improving on that final lap. Then Coop then up into P8. Then he's got time to go again, but I don't think he's got enough fuel to go again. Then Ginger Rage then up to the line. Ginger Rage improves by 3.5 tenths, but he stays P15. Equaz, no, not Equaz, sorry, Gordo takes P10, then jumping up ahead of Equaz then as we've got more drivers crossing the line. KD P4 stays P4, but it has improved by 10.5. Then good stuff indeed from him. Then Rocket Lee hasn't improved on his second attempt, but it stays on the front row as it stands. Equaz up into P8, displacing his teammate down to P9, and into sector 2 we go then. Young Lights then is back out on circuit. Then we've got more action further down the field. Then Vessier has jumped up to somewhere. No, he hasn't. He has, unfortunately, he has not jumped up anywhere then, has Vessier, but he's still going out there, it looks like. Coop then next across the line. Then Kiki stays Kiki jumps up to P4 I should say then in the racing ball then. Good stuff indeed onto the second row of the grid. Here comes Young Lights then round the final corner. Then let's see what Young Lights can do in the kick Sauber up to the line then for Young Lights. It's a 10th improvement. Then he stays P6 for the time being though. Coop is coming through then, but I don't think Coop is on a flying lap here, unfortunately for Coop. Then he is going to be done and dusted, and P9 for the Williams driver as he comes into the pit lane there. So I think that is qualifying done and dusted. Then last week's race winner then, R2 Beat, then pole sitter here in Spain, and looking very strong then for the Aston Martin outfit. Then Rocket Lee then on the front row of the grid as well in the Ferrari. Then P2 for him by only a few thousandths of a second. I can't quite do the maths on that one. I think that is 37 thousandths of a second then to pole position, that is. So both very close then indeed for the front two. Then Jinner then P3 I should say in the Mercedes. Then Kiki P4, KD P5, Young Lights in P6, Kamara Racer P7, Equaz in P8, Coop in P9. Chappers rounds off the top 10. Vessier has left the session then, so unfortunately for Vessier that's not good news then, because hopefully he needs to be back in before the after the formation lap now, because you can't rejoin during the formation lap, unfortunately. We'll have a quick rundown of the classification then, and we'll get our lovely words from our sponsors before we get ourselves started for the 66 laps around this circuit de Catalunya. And we seem to have skipped the classification there. So, oh dear, it's raining then. We'll get ourselves a quick word from our lovely sponsors and we'll be back for the start of the Grand Prix. Right then, away we go then for, well, it's a bit of a damp start. Oh, dearie me. A bit of a damp start then to this race. Apparently, what I was saying, it's raining for the whole race as well then, which is, well, interesting. But there we are then. So we have got ourselves underway for the formation lap then. I think Vasya has, I don't think Vasya has rejoined them, which is good because he can't rejoin until the race has actually started now, unfortunately, because usually that causes a glitch then where he, where his car is disqualified then off the starting lights then if he joins back before the race has restarted then. So hopefully he knows that and he can join back in a few moments time. Vasya then is going to be P14, but everybody for P19 to P1 then on the intermediate compound tyres, as we've got a bit of drizzle on the circuit then. We weren't aware of it. Dry, well, Ginger Rage told us it was going to be dry, so oh goodness me. So that is interesting. So good stuff indeed. So there we are then. Moomin, if you put the stream off, it will help your internet connection for the race. So that would be very helpful indeed for the drivers who are racing with you. If you can hear me, that is bad because you're watching the stream. So there we go. Right then, there we go then. R2B cruising around then. Where is the track map? It's gone. There it is. So there we are. We're watching R2B then cruising around on his own pretty much at the moment on his formation lap. And then we will get ourselves underway then for the race itself. Of course, when you get onto the grid, your tyre temperatures lock in, so you don't have to worry about waiting for the rest of the field as they do in real life then. But again, we're not going to get a very good camera angle from this race start, are we? It doesn't look like it. There we go. The Minecraft rain is back, so good stuff indeed. R2B has got himself around the formation lap very quickly indeed, but he's got himself disqualified in parking in his grid slot. So there we go. So fantastic stuff indeed then. Right then, lining up then on the grid then for a very wet start to the Spanish Grand Prix. But yes, we will have to just take it as it comes then. We'll have to tackle it as it comes in. Potentially it might dry up then later on in the race. There's a few people parked in odd locations there. I'm not quite sure which car that is because I can't see from this camera angle, but there we go. We will have a look at that and we will look at the position changes then as we get ourselves hopefully started for this Grand Prix then. 5 red lights coming on here in Spain then. The 5 red lights are on, the 5 red lights are off then, and away we go then. A fantastic start from Rocket Lee. He has taken the charge and he's up into P1 with a brilliant start off the line, and R2B from pole position down to P6. Then he's had a horrible start then with that disqualification as well then in terms of parking himself on the grid, and he is down to P6. Then Gordo up 4 places, then up into P8. Then KD fighting with the Aston Martins now. Kiki trying to get himself past Young Lights as well. Then round the outside at turn 3. They've got to be very careful there because it's going to be drift central then as we go into sector 2. But goodness me, Young Lights then sticking his nose down the inside of Rocket Lee. Then Rocket Lee with a great start then, but he's losing traction then to Jinner. Then he's lost out then to Kiki as well as we go into turn 5, and Kamara races off the circuit completely then. Goodness me, that racing ball then taking a bit of a scenic route then down to P5 unfortunately, or down to P12, goodness me, for Kiki. Kamara racing, sorry, Vessia, I don't know if he's in his car. Yes, he is in his car somehow, so that's good stuff indeed. I didn't see him rejoin, but there we go. He has taken the race start. He is underway then. Ginger Egg up into P13. He's gained 3 places. Cam has dropped down to P15, goodness me. Kamara Race has dropped down to the back of the field. So I'm not quite sure what's happened there to Kamara Racing then, but he seems to have had another issue somewhere as he was all over the place then into Sector 2. but he's got himself up. We're still in the train, I should say, that at least, which is good stuff indeed. Then Ginner then leads the way. Then he has currently got himself up into two places, then into the lead of the Grand Prix at the end of lap 1. Young Lights up 4 places as well. Fantastic stuff indeed from him as we go through to start off lap 2 here of 66. Then Ginner sets the fastest lap of the race. Then Ekwaz up 5 places into the podium places as well. Then brilliant stuff for Ekwaz. A great start on those intermediate compound tyres as we go down towards turn 1. Then for the second time, then in towards turn 1. Then Rocket Lee holds on to P5 ahead of R2 Beat. Then both those two having difficult starts in the wet conditions as well. They're now trying to get themselves back up the order, then back where they were in qualifying. Gordon then slots into P7 then after gaining 4 places on the opening lap as well. Ginger Rage and Vess here then battling away. Ginger Rage has knocked himself past the Alpine up into P12 I should say then in the McLaren. Then he's storming off then in the McLaren as well. Then good stuff indeed. Serious Mushroom dropped down 5 places. I'm not quite sure what happened to him. Out in front, Young Lights has got the lead, has he? Yes, he has. Then he's taken the lead away from the Mercedes of Ginger. Then up into P1 then for the Kick Sauber then as we go up the hill towards turn 8 as well. Turn 8 or turn 9 I think it is. I'll try and do my maths in a minute. But we've had a problem then. It's Moomin, it's Coop, no, it's Vess here and Coop. Vessier and Coop have had a collision. Then Coop has got a 10-second penalty then as Moomin has dropped down the field as well. Then Moomin and Vessier then having an issue, I think, and that has cost them both. Then as we go in towards the hairpin, then oh my goodness me, a very late move from the Ferrari, and they've caught wheels as well there. And goodness me, I'm not quite sure what is going on there between. Again, it's the internet then that's causing the problems then I think for Moomin. But brilliant stuff indeed. As there we go. Then Ginner then is trying to catch up back again then to Lights as we go down the main straight then onto lap 3 here as the rest of the drivers are filtering through. Then everyone's still in the lead train. Then Vessier is in the pit lane though. Vessier has got a problem then. I think Vessier's got some wing damage potentially there. He's going to have to try and fix that as well. Ginner and Young Lights battling into turn 1 and 2. Young Lights holds on to the lead for the time being, that is. As let's have a look and see what was happening for Vessier. Then Vessier I think is going to have to, well, he's coming to the pit lane then. But I don't think he is changing the front wing as well. Then Young Lights and Ginner then still battling then into sector 2 this time. Young Lights then around the outside at turn 4, then holding the inside now for turn 5. But Ginner then trying to stretch his legs, then trying to go around the outside here and hold the position there, but not quite. Then Ginner then slotting into P2. Vessier then coming back out of the pit lane now. Unfortunately, that was a unscheduled stop, I think, then for Vessier. Then wing damage then for the Alpine, but back underway now as well. Then goodness me, they're sliding all over the place. They're coming out of turn 6 and 7, and now up into turn 8, I think it is now, as we head down towards the new turn 9 as well. Then Ginner then is just looking to cool the tyres down, I think then, but I don't think they need too much cooling. Then the rain's still falling here, so it's not getting too light then for the weather forecast, that is, as it stands. But fingers crossed we'll have some nice dry weather again coming soon. But that'll be nice for me. I think it'll be nice for most of the drivers out there as well then, but we'll have to wait and see as we go down then to finish off lap 3. Then here we go, then flying in the top 4, very closely matched indeed. Then as we go into lap 4 now as well, then we've got a Kick Sauber, we've got a Mercedes, we've got a Williams, we've got a Racing Bull as well. Then Rocket Lee is coming in the pit lane. So I'm not quite sure what's happened to Rocket Lee then. Rocket Lee coming in the box as well then, so he's calling it a day then on the intermediate compound tyres as well. Doesn't look like he's got wing damage there, but he's going for a wing change anyway. I'm not quite sure what is going on then. Maybe Vessier had the same issue. But yes, interesting stuff indeed. Rocket Lee into the pits then. Unfortunately, not the start that he wanted then. Can he get himself back up the order then? Potentially with a nice little undercut as well, to be fair, on those drivers who have not pitted. Of course, we've only done 4 laps so far. Favre's got himself past KD, then up into P7 for the Alpine driver, then up 8 places now as it stands as well, as we fly down into sector 2 now for lap 4. Both the Hasses lying astern, then KD ahead of Chappers, then KD of course dropping down 3 places from the start so far, and Chappers gaining 1 place as well. Then Cam then up into the top 10 in the Kick Sauber as well. Then good stuff from him. Then Ginger Age just outside the top 10, 2 seconds away from the points paying positions. Then is the McLaren driver. Then fantastic stuff indeed. So there we are. Moomin then is currently in P16, then he's ahead of Hungry Styles. Then Rocket Lee is back out of the pit lane. He's 4 seconds ahead of Vessier. Then both these two having made unscheduled stops, I think, for a wing change as well then. But we didn't see what the problem was for Rocket Lee. Then he seemed to have a full wing intact then for the Ferrari driver then. But yes, unfortunately, it is he is pitted. So that is what's happened then. Gordo sets the fastest lap of the race. Then Gordo on a bit of a charge. Then Cam's on the charge now as well in the Kick Sauber. well then. Good stuff indeed from him as we go into turn 1 then. Jinner then trying to put the pressure on, but he's too far back to make a move then into turns 1 and 2. Then Ekwise then trying to hold on to the top 2 here. Then Kiki in close proximity as well. Then R2B has now joined the fray, as has Gordo, and Farf is getting himself closer and closer as well then, as the top 10 almost are very close together, nose to tail together almost, as we go through onto lap 5 now as well then. So far so good out there as well then for the 19 drivers then, or for 17 drivers then. Hopefully the other two, Rocket Lee and Vessi, then can catch up then in the latter stages. Of course it's a long race then, so anything can happen then. We'll just have to wait and see what can happen then in favour then of the Ferrari and the Alpine then, who have started to, well not started, had a problem then at the start it looks like, and now trying to get themselves back into the fight as well then. But we will wait and see with some bated breath then what they can do then. But they've got some pace then, of course they're already catching up to the rest of the field as it stands as well then. So there we are. Jinner then is trying to get himself back up into the race lead, and he's been putting the pressure on Young Lights then for the last lap or two, and he's trying to steal that way. Then Ekwise is almost getting dropped then by these two here as they fly down the hill then to complete lap 5 and fly on to lap 6 then of 66 then, so almost 10% of the race done as we get ourselves on to lap 6 now. Here comes Jinner then on the attack then. He's going to be flying for the attack then. He's got the pace, he's got the ERS, and he has got the position, I think. Has he? Yes, he has. Oh, goodness me. Young Lights then turn it in. Then there's a car there already. Young Lights, you can't turn in when there's a car right there. Moving has got himself past Kamara Racer. Has he? Yes, he has, I think. Up into P15. Then Young Lights then has lost the lead then after an attempted, well, I don't know what you were trying to attempt then. But yeah, basically, if there's a car there, you can't really turn in on it because it's there. Is basically the racing rule then of F1, but yeah, nonetheless we can try it anyway and see what happens. Unfortunately for Young Lights it didn't work out then, so there we are then down to P2, but he's still on the back then of Jinner. Then these two carrying on their fight then for the race lead. Ekwise now in contention as well then, 8/10 back as Kiki then flies up the hill. Then Kiki, the only driver apart from Hungry Styles actually to hold position then from the race start. He's not lost, he's not gained anything, but he is just holding station for the time being then, waiting to see when his opportunity will arise then to pounce then for the podium places then in the Racing Bull. Good stuff indeed then. Big Al said Jinner is quick but not sure about his racecraft, says Big Al. Goodness me, what a nice comment. I won't, that's not coming from me, Jinner, that is not coming from me, it's coming from Big Al then, of all people, so I'm sure he doesn't, I'm sure he don't mean it that way, but yeah, it's well, he's managed to get himself through onto lap 7 unscathed. Kamara Racer would have a penalty as well, and Cooper's got a penalty, a 10-second penalty I think for a collision, but I don't think it will be. I don't think it was Coop's fault then. It looks. Oh, I don't remember it being Coop's fault anyway. So we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to make sure that is removed, or potentially after the race. Then goodness me, side by side action here with Farf and KD into turn 3. Then through into through the first couple of turns, then side by side, and now into turn 3 side by side. Farf edges just ahead and stays in P7 for the time being. Then these three, well, this trio, then this quartet, I suppose you could say now with Cam, has dropped off the top 6 as it stands as well. Then the top 6 now starting to spread their wings and fly away. 2 seconds to get back to Favre now for Gordo. Just a bit of patience, says Big Al then. To be fair, patience and concentration then are very key, especially in 100% racing, but also in any F1 racing, as Gordo then gets ahead of his teammate, then up into P5 now for Gordo, and trying to chase down those top 4 to get himself into podium contention as well then. But yes, Big Al is correct then. Patience is key in Formula 1 racing, and like I said, well, patience, concentration then, and well, being good is key. As talking about being good, then as Moomin has forced Coop off the circuit there, and goodness me, Coop is having a bit of a battle. Then Moomin is now in the battle then with Kamara Racer as well. Then as the Ferrari then gets himself up into P14, and I think that's just about got himself sorted. Looks like it is all good indeed, but I'm not sure Kamara Racer and Coop are going to be very happy with that. Then Young Lights retakes the lead. Then Cam's got himself past Chappers as well. Then in towards turn 1 now, splitting the Haas pair then up into P9 for Cam, as Reflection goes for the move on Ginger A's then up into P11 here for the Mercedes driver. Then just outside the top 10 as Sirius Mushroom's gone through on his teammate as well then. So Ginger A's I think playing a bit of team orders then. I think he's got wing damage. Yes, he has. He's missing a right end plate then for Ginger Age, so he's had a bit of a smash somewhere, and unfortunately that has cost him dearly then as well. Then as we go in towards the in towards lap 8, then in towards sector 2, then the top 6 now scampering away. Farf Favre trying to bring that gap down. It's now under 2 seconds, then trying to get himself back in contention then as Vesio passes Rocket Lee then down the back of the field. Unfortunately, those two battling away then after unscheduled stops for a wing change earlier on in this race then. Only 8 laps in then, but earlier on in this race feels like a long way away then with this rain falling, but nonetheless then Chapper's down to P10 then, back where he started then after losing out to New Zealand Cam then as well. Cam doing a good job then, so far so good then for Cam. Right then, moving. Oh dear, go down the inside then of Ginger Rage then. What a terrible place to go for a move then, as Ginger Rage then is going to be very angry with that. And thankfully, Moomin has got himself through then unscathed as well then. So moving up into P13 now on a bit of a charge then is Moomin then gaining 3 places in the last couple of laps as well. As we head down to finish off lap 8 then for the Ferrari driver then. He's in a bit of a McLaren sandwich now. Can he get himself into the contention, into the fight then with Serious Mushroom then as we go down towards the first turn then. KD back ahead of Farf now into turn 1 and 2, and can he hold off the Alpine? Goodness me, then into you can't just push to pass then, Farf. Unfortunately, KD is from America, so yeah, maybe he knows a bit of a rub in his races, but I don't think that is Formula 1 racing then, as Farf then slotting into P8 now behind the Haas driver then, as we get ourselves through into sector 2 now once again. Then Serious Mushroom then is in the fight then with Reflection then just outside the top 10 there for these two as well, and then moving in the background and trying to close in on this pair. Ginger Rage trying to hold on as well. Then Kamara Racer down to P15, Coop down to P16. Unfortunately, they've had some sort of issues then, I think, on this first stint, on this first lap, or first few laps I should say. And the Hungry Stars back underway then as well. Then Vessia then has got himself ahead of Rocket Lee, and these two scrap it out then, but they are gaining. They've gained a few seconds then in the last 3 or 4 laps. They've gained from 25 seconds down to 21, so it is coming back in their favour. Gordo has got himself past Kiki for P4 then in the Aston Martin, flying up into the podium place, or not podium place, sorry, P4 is not a podium place. I should know that. I've done quite a few commentating, got races commentated, but there we go then. Gordo then up into P4, then KD sets the fastest lap of the race, then KD is on a flyer now. He's trying to get that gap back down then to the top 6 then, and Favre then has been passed by Cam as well then into turn 1, then Cam up into P8 now, and on the charge as well here. Brilliant stuff indeed then. Potentially we might start to see some oh dear, no, Cam has lost out then. Favre trying to go around the outside at turn 3, and has he done it? Yes, he has done it. Yes, he's held on to P8 then just about then. I thought the move was done and dusted for Cam, but he's not quite done it then. Favre sneaks back ahead then, back up into P8, and there's contact between the two of them, and oh dear, there's a bit of a slide then as well for Cam then. Oh dear, trying to keep that car under control then. There's Equaz has got himself up into, where is he? Where is Equaz? Equaz trying to go down the inside then of Jinner then. I think he's backed out of that move, especially in towards turn 6 as well. Then not a great overtaking place in my opinion, but we've seen it happen before, but I'm not sure it is the best place to overtake. Jenner then going a bit wide, then coming over the top of the hill, then Equaz now waiting in the wings, then they've lost out 1.4 seconds to Young Lights. Here comes Equaz down the inside here into the hairpin. Can he make that move stick then? This is the question then on the traction then. Who is going to win out then? Oh dear, Jinner's clouted into Equaz then as well. Then goodness me, then the fight in here is costing him a lot of time then as well. Jinner then has got the inside then for the next right-hander, but Equaz now going round the top of the hill, and he's got the move, has he? Yes, he has. Brilliant stuff indeed, and what a move indeed as well in these conditions as well. Fantastic stuff from Equaz then, and I think well played for Jinner as well to not take out himself and the other driver. Gordon out into P4 then, trying to chase down Jinner then as we go through into turn 1 then. Is he going to be later on the brakes and then the Mercedes? Not quite then, as Jinner holds on to P3. Good stuff indeed out there as well. Then the gap, like I said, coming down very quickly indeed then for Vessia and for Rocket Lee. Then they are on the fresher tyres, of course. I think by about 4 laps then we'll have a look at the position changes. The Kamara Race has got himself past Ginger Rage then up into P14. We'll have a look at the position changes as well then. Sorry, we've been looking at the position changes all race. I should say we'll have a look at the tyre situation then. So Vessia then is 3 lap younger tyres than the rest of the field ahead of him, and Rocket Lee then is 4 lap younger tyres as well then. So it is going to come in their favour then in the next few laps or so. I think then we'll have to wait and see how many stops we're going to be doing in this race. I'm not quite sure, as we're seeing I think a few drivers then starting to struggle with their intermediate compound tyres. 2.6 seconds the gap for Young Lights out in front now. Equaz has got himself through then, and here comes Gordo as well then down the inside of Jinner into the same place, into that hairpin as well then for the Aston Martin driver. Then has he got the move then? Yes, he has done. Up into the podium places this time for Gordo then. Good stuff indeed then, and Kiki challenging Jinner as well then into the next right-hander as well then. Goodness me then, this is going to get close indeed. Not quite then for Kiki in the racing ball. He's dropped down to P5 then, but he's staying in contention here as well. Then 2.7 seconds of gap. Then Young Light sets the fastest lap of the race. Then out in front, he is storming off in the distance. Then Favre picks up a penalty, the second penalty then of the evening. Unfortunately for Coop, then he has got a penalty, but it will be looked at after the race. Then it is not a 3-second penalty. Then it is a 10-second penalty for a collision. Then, but I don't think he was involved in it. He was just caught up in the aftermath of it. So there we are. So good stuff indeed. And Equaz now trying to chase down Young Lights. Then he's got a gap then almost a second to Gordo. Gordo almost losing the car then through turn 3 then, but he's got himself back underway. And Gino then just looking for a move then into turn 4, but he's too far back. Then here comes Kiki as well. Then R2 in contention as well. Then KD almost catching up to this fighting as well. Then after all the battling that's gone on between the top, the top 3, the top 2, the P2 and P3. Goodness me, that's what I meant. With Gino and with Equaz as well. Then that's caught up KD now almost. Favre as well, then Cam then is not far away, then as is Chapa. So the top 10 once again starting to bunch up here, apart from Young Lights who's starting to storm off in the distance and in the race lead now. but there we go. The Equaz will try his best to bring that gap back down, of course. Gordo then is 1 second behind. Then here comes Kiki then almost late on the brakes then, and that could open the door for R2 Beat to go down the inside at the hairpin. Yes, it has done. R2 Beat up into P5 and goodness me, that spray was coming off so strong then from the cars in front. I thought that the Mercedes of Gino was ghosting then, but he is not. He is still in the race and he is still P4. But the gap's now starting to emerge. The top 3 starting to spread away then. From the rest of the field, then 1.1 seconds then for Gordo, then to Equaz as we go down in towards turn 1 on lap 13. Gino then trying to get himself back in contention as well. Then Favre and KD once again resuming their battle. Then into turn 1. Then Favre takes P7. Yes, he does this time. Yes, he's got himself back ahead of the pass into turns 1 and 2. Then good stuff indeed. They're now trying to chase down Kiki. Then 1.2 seconds of gap then is the difference between P6 and P7 as it stands. Then Chappers then is doing a good job then in P10 for the time in as well. Then Serious Mushroom right behind Reflection still, but can't get himself past that Mercedes just yet. Then in this race, then 2.5 seconds back to Moon, and then Kamara Racer. Oh, I thought there was a bit of debris that's come off there, but I'm not quite sure what that was. Kamara Racer then P14, then Ginger Rage P15 for the time being as well, but no penalties then for Ginger Rage then, so he's stuck between 2 with penalties at the moment. Then Hungry Styles then is 11 seconds back. Unfortunately with Styles then I think he's got some sort of technical difficulties, but he's still doing a good job then soldiering on out there, which is great stuff indeed. Then Rocket Lee and Vessi then still catching up, but they're slowly catching up. They're creeping up to the back of the pack then. Of course they have, oh dear, as Vessi is having a few internet issues then it looks like, so that's good stuff. So there we are. We'll come back to that one then later on. So yeah, we want to avoid that, but now into lap 14, then 3.2 seconds to gap, and then Young Lights is storming off then in the distance here and doing a great job then in the kick sour as it stands. Then Equaz P2, but he's now got Gordo for company. Then Jinner as well has caught up to this battle. Then R2 Beat is coming through as well. Then Reflection picks up a penalty. Then where is Reflection? And unfortunately for Reflection, he's down in, or was through the final couple of corners then for Reflection, unfortunately for him. Then now Mushroom putting the pressure on then in towards turn 1. Then out in front KD still putting the pressure on Favre. Then here comes Kiki. Then round turn 3 then as Cooper's got himself ahead of Ginger Rage as well. Then down towards turn 1. Oh dear, Ginger Rage I think looking to turn in then, but very wisely then he was very aware of the Williams car on his inside and chose not to, which is very clever stuff indeed. Serious Mushroom has got himself past Reflection this time, then into turn 4 I think this time, and now up into P11 then for the Mushroom. Then on the charge, then can he get himself that 6-second gap then to the top 10? Can he get himself into the points pair positions later on in this Grand Prix? We're still only on lap 14 of 66 then, so there's quite a few laps to go then. Andy said, I thought the rain stayed on the plane then. Oh yeah, well it should do, shouldn't it? As Cam picked up a penalty as well then. But yeah, the rain in Spain should just fall on the plane. I'm guessing they've moved that. They've moved it over here to Barcelona, of course. But yes, unfortunately we've got to deal with what we got then, as the rain has fallen here in Spain as well then, as dear Gin, and then losing the back end a bit then through the penultimate corner then, but keeping it under control just about as we head on to lap 15 here as well then, about, well, almost a quarter of the way through the Grand Prix here, but so far so good then. Young Lights, well, so far so good for Young Lights, that is, because he is stormed off in the distance then, 3 seconds of gap then for the kick sour then. Gordo is bringing that gap back down to Equaz then, so maybe the tyre wear starting to kick in now for the Williams driver, as we might see some pit stops coming very soon, I would imagine. and then potentially it's a two-stopper on the intermediate compound tyres. I'm not quite sure what the weather is going to be doing for the rest of the race from here. We heard dry, we heard wet, we heard all sorts of weather conditions, so we're not quite sure what's going to be the right conditions, or which conditions it's going to be then for the remaining, remaining 40 laps or so. I'm not quite sure. 50 laps, I think, actually, so goodness me, there's still quite a long way to go. So yeah, we'll power through. But so far so good then for the race leaders. Then not so good for race leader then the Young Lights. Then he has now lost a lot of time then to the Williams of Ekbaz, down to 2 seconds then. So I'm not quite sure what's happened there then for Young Lights then, unless he's had an issue somewhere then, but he's got himself back underway quickly enough then to not to lose too much time. But he has lost at least 1.5 seconds then to Ekbaz, his rival then for the race lead. As it stands then, as we go through to finish off lap 15, then I'm not quite sure what happened to Young Lights there, but there was no yellow flags or anything, so I think he might have just had a bit of a spin or half spin, and managed to collect his car, then collect his thoughts and back underway. So good stuff indeed then. Gordo then trying to put the pressure on here. He comes then along the main straight, then can he make a move for P2? He's getting closer, he's getting closer, he's going to go for it. No, he's not going to go for it then. He thinks better of it, then he stays P3. Kamara Racer picks up a 3-second penalty then, coming through into the final couple of corners then. Chappers and Cam switching places then as well. Then Cam stays P9. Oh my goodness me, that rear end is looking flighty indeed then, as that is a very famous commentating line then from Ginger Age himself. I think in Spain as well then, back in probably ALR Season 2 then, before we even had any other divisions. We only had one division in the back then. So yeah, the rear end looking flighty is a very classic ALR commentary line from Ginger Age. So there we go then, good stuff indeed. So these three are still in the fight then for P7 then behind Farf, and looking to try and gain on that Alpine car then as we go up the hill then once again then. Lap 16 unfolding then as very nicely indeed then. The gap still stabilised but now 2 seconds, so Young Lights must have had some sort of issue then, some technical difficulty potentially, or a half spin somewhere then, as he's got himself back underway then, and keeping that gap quite steady now, back at 2 seconds this time. So there we are. We'll have to wait and see then if there's anything else is going to change then at the top of the order then. So far it is looking like it is status quo for the time being then, until the pit stop phases, as Hungry Styles then is dropping back quite significantly now. Unfortunately Hungry Styles is struggling out there, as here comes R2 Beat then onto the start finish straight then. Here he goes then with some ERS then on the back of the Mercedes of Jinnah. Can he make the move then in towards turn 1? Can Gordo make the move as well? Kamara Racer picks up another 3-second penalty then somewhere. Interesting stuff indeed. I'm not quite sure what's going on there for Kamara Racing. Then he's 2 penalties then in the last 2 laps then for the Racing Bull driver, but he seems to be having some sort of problems out there, but potentially they can be removed then if they're unfair. Let's have a look and see what RTV is up to. I thought he was going to go for a dive then into turn 4 then. That would have been very dangerous indeed, but he has thought better of it as well then. Good stuff from the Aston Martin driver then, that is. Fantastic stuff indeed. Then out in front then, out in the back of the field as it stands then, we've got Moomin trying to catch up then to Reflection and Serious Mushroom just outside the top 10 then. Kamara Racer then is in the fight then with Moomin as well. Goodness me, no he's not, then he's off the circuit there, and that is dangerous stuff indeed. And I think the tyres might be going then very quickly indeed for the Racing Bull driver, especially if he's going to be off the circuit like that. And unfortunately he has lost himself a little bit of time then to the Ferrari of Moomin just ahead of us as well then, so maybe looking to box very soon, I would imagine. Coop the same as well. Ginger Rage then is powering on as well then. Ginger Rage is still in contention. He's going around there with no right end plate as well then, which he's been doing for quite a lot of laps in this race. I'm not quite sure from when, but he might have to come in and pit to sort out that front wing very soon then. I think we're about coming up to almost a third of the way through the Grand Prix here. So far so good then. Out in front then, we're back to this battle here as well once again then for the final podium, or the podium places I should say, but not the top podium place just yet there, because Young Lights has got himself a 2-second gap still. But out in front then we've got this battle here then for Gordo, for Jinnah, for R2 Beat, for Kiki, and into the pits comes Moomin Ninja then, so he's called it a day then on the intermediate compound tyres. The first driver to make a scheduled stop I think here, so potentially that could mean it is going to be a 2-stopper here for Moomin. That is if it's going to stay dry, stay wet that is, but yeah, coming back out of the pit lane now, he has got himself onto a fresh set of intermediate compound tyres and looking for a bit of an undercut here then. He's going to be passed by Styles I think, then down the main straight then. Styles of course not pitted just yet then, but out of the pits comes Moomin Ninja, then he's down to P17, but now on a fresh set of intermediate compound tyres he will be looking to try and set the pace, then trying to get himself a nice undercut as well then on those ahead. Of course that was Reflection and the Serious Mushroom then that were in contention contention. Then here comes Moon, and then looking to make a move then into turn 4 then. Oh my goodness me then. Oh, I thought he was flying off the circuit then, but he hasn't, thankfully. Again, yes, you're just not sure where he is, to be honest, because you can't really tell with his internet. But there we go. So right then, Moomin then trying to get himself back in contention, and we're going to have to just skip off of that and hope that nothing bad happens. But there we go. Right then, here comes the trio once again then behind Ekbaz. Then 2 Aston Martins, 1 Mercedes, as we fly onto lap 19 here as well then. Moomin stuck behind. We'll have a look at see what Moomin's up to now, because Moomin stuck behind Hungry Styles then into the hairpin and looking to go down the inside then. Oh goodness me, again I think you can't tell what is going on with his internet. That is the problem. Then Gordo's got himself past Ekbaz and up into, no he hasn't, he's side by side then through turn 3, and here comes Ekbaz on the inside then of turn 4, then trying to defend that position, trying to hold on to P2, but again this battling then is going to cost them time. To Young Lights as well, round the outside goes Gordo. He's now got the inside for turn 5 here as we head into sector 2, and he has got the position then on the Williams of Ekbaz. So good stuff indeed then up into P2 now for Gordo, and oh no, is he? I thought Ekbaz was going to go for a late lunge there as well then in towards turn 6 and 7, but not quite then. 2.5 seconds the gap now. It has extended by a couple of tenths then as well then with that battling through turn 4 then, but now back underway then as Gordo now takes back P2 then as Vessia has left the session then. So unfortunately for Vessia, we had some sort of internet issues then in the the end of qualifying then into the formation lap then when he got himself back in, but unfortunately, like I said, had recurring incidents then. I'm not quite sure what's happened then to Vessia. Hopefully he can get himself back in the car very soon and back underway, that is. But there we go, good stuff indeed. Then 13 seconds the gap then to Ginger Age then for Moomin Ninja, who was of course the first driver to pit then onto a fresh set of intermediate compound tyres on a scheduled stop, that is, as he's got himself past Style then Vessia back into the session then. Good stuff indeed. And dearie me, Moomin then is drifting the car around the top of the hill then. That is going to be very costly indeed if he gets that wrong, and thankfully it is kept under control for the time being as well then. Brilliant stuff. Then Ekbaz now back down to P3, but still challenging then. We're about a third of the way, or almost a third of the way through the race so far. So far so good. As well, then into the pits comes Coop. Then Coop is back. Coop is into the pits. Of course, this is his first stop. Then he will be serving that 10-second penalty. There is that 10-second penalty there as well. The movement sets the fastest lap of the race. Then, of course, on the fresher intermediate compound tyres up into P15 now with Coop into the pits as well, and into the box then for the Williams. Then he's served that penalty as well. Then we will look to remove that penalty after the race as well. Potentially, we had quite a lot of penalties to be removed after the last, was it the Canadian Grand Prix? We had quite a lot of penalties to be removed. Then R2Beat's got himself past Jinner then up into P4. The pole sitter, of course, then R2Beat then trying to get himself back into the fight then for the podium places. Then unfortunately that difficult start has been very costly because it's been 20 laps then where he's not been in podium contention here. But now back underway, then he's got a second then to get himself back up into P3 here. On lap 20, on to lap 21 actually. Goodness me, we're flying through the laps here. Fantastic stuff indeed. Then I need to turn my light on so I can see what's going on. But there we go. Fantastic stuff. Then Gordo in the pit lane. So Gordo calling it a day then on the first set of intermediate compound tyres. 20 laps then, 21 laps then done on those intermediate compound tyres. Where is he going to come out then? Cam also in the box as well then. So a few drivers now calling it a day then on their intermediate compound tyres. Sirius must have been promoted up into the top 10. And Gordo back underway then. Where is Cam going to come out then into this fight as well? Then where is Gordo going to come out in this fight as well? Then Kamara Racer then goes through to P11. Then Gordo is going to have a bit of fresh air, I think. Then he's going to come out in P12. Then just a few seconds behind the Kamara Racer. Then Ginger Rage carries on as well. Ginger Rage then into P13. Then here comes Cam. Then again fresh air then for Cam on a new set of intermediate compound tyres. Going to be good stuff indeed. Then the Ferrari of Moomin Ninja is behind him. 3-lap old intermediate compound tyres, but he's going to be a bit further behind than he wanted to be. But of course Moomin Ninja was further back in the fight before the pit stops anyway, so potentially has got himself a nice little undercut then as well, still on the likes of Serious Mushroom and Reflection, who was battling for the final points pay position as well. Then good stuff indeed. Right, Vessia back in the car, I think, then, which is good stuff as well then. But Coop then, of course, has served that penalty as well, which has put him so far down the order then. But he's got himself on a fresh set of intermediate compound tyres and back underway then. Will we see some more pit stops then, this time for the top runners in this race then on to lap 22? Anyone diving into the pit lane then? Young Lights staying out then. Young Lights staying out then for another lap then on these intermediate compound tyres then. Maybe looking for a bit of a wet patch then down the main straight there on that right hand side. Ekbaz stays out, so does R2Beat then. Kiki is in the pit lane then. Kiki calling it a day then on his intermediate compound tyres as well, going into neutral then, drifting it into the pit lane. But yeah, I'm not quite sure it's going to be very helpful, but yeah, I don't think it hindered him either, to be fair. Kiki then into the box then, so is KD as well then for the Haas driver. So Reflection, Serious Mushroom have gone through, then Kamara Racer stayed out as well, then Kamara Racer staying out, then up into the top 10. And Gordo, where will Gordo come out? Then Gordo, of course, is ahead of these two. He was ahead of them on track as well then, so before the pit stops then, so he's back out on the way then. Kiki coming out then. Where is Kiki coming out then? He's going to be ahead of Ginger Rage, I think. Yes, he is. Moomin Ninja sets the fastest lap of the race again then, so Moomin Ninja is flying out there as it stands then. Ginger Rage then into P12, then KD on the fresh set of tyres is, oh goodness me, then KD. Oh, we've got a Ferrari. No, it's not. It's a Rocket League then having an issue. But KD then has got himself ahead of Cam. So Cam then was right behind KD before the stops as well, wasn't he? So the undercut didn't work. That one extra lap then didn't work then for Cam, unfortunately. He's stuck behind the Haas once again then, but he's very close indeed to the Haas this time. And now as Cam picks up a 3-second penalty, unfortunately, then going through turn 5, which is a bit of an odd place to pick up a penalty then, unfortunately for Cam then, but he's still soldiering on out there. He's in a fight for points, I think, in this one, especially with a lot of drivers ahead of him still to stop, that is. Good. Up top of the hill, and there is Cam then on board with the kick salve. Then as we go down towards the hairpin, can KD make a move then on Ginger Rage then for that position? But Ginger Rage was yet to pit then. We might see him into the box then very soon. Then Farf and Chappers then are into the pits. Rocket Lee picks up a 3-second penalty, unfortunately for Rocket Lee, and he is still soldiering on up there. I'm not quite sure. Rocket Lee then, Vessi has managed to catch up then to the fight then, but unfortunately for Rocket Lee then, it's not been the same for him as well. Then Gordo sets the fastest lap of the race. Then Gordo up into P5 and back underway then. Setting his first flying lap then after his pit stop then as well. Farf then has been passed by Kiki. Then what is going to happen to the change of the order? Then here comes Kiki on Ginger Rage and Cam on Ginger Rage as well. Then down the inside into turn 1. Then goodness me. And I think they're still side by side there. They're still side by side there. There's still contact there as well. Then KD then squeezing Cam, I should say. Then goodness me. And unfortunately for KD, then he's come off worse. Then Ginger Rage has been passed by KD. KD's back past now again. Goodness me, Ginger Rage then in the fight then for the top 10 as it stands. And brilliant stuff indeed. Cam has got himself past KD then up into P8 now. Of course, more stops to come then, but yes, unfortunately for that, I'm not quite sure what was going on there, but I don't think they noticed each other then, as Hungry Styles is into the box then to get himself onto a new set of intermediate compound tyres as well. Then that indicates that it's going to be, if it stays raining, that is, it's going to be a 2-stop then, because they're going to be stopping around lap 44-ish as well, or around lap 40 to 44, around that area as well then. But we haven't had the race leaders in the top 4 yet to pit then, and they're carrying on out there, so potentially looking to try and do a 2-stop, oh sorry, 1-stop here as well then for the top 4 there, that is, as they are carrying on out there for the time being. Then Gordo is pitted for the freshest intermediate compound tyres then, so he is now in contention then for potentially a next race lead then when the top 4 do start to come into the pit lane. But of course he might have to do an extra stop as well then, so we'll have to wait and see how it's going to play out then in whose favour as well then. We'll have to find out then later on then. And here comes Chappers then trying to get himself past Ginger Rage then down the pit straight and back up into the top 10 then for the Haas driver then. Ginger Rage, of course, yet to pit then, and I'm not quite sure why Ginger Rage is carrying on out there, to be fair, because he's got a wing damage then that needs to be fixed. As goodness me, then Reflection are moving, then switching places, then moving up into P13, and that is what Moomin was looking for then, because Moomin was battling with, well, not battling with Reflection, he was trying to catch Reflection then for the final points pair positions then at the time for that with that undercut then as well then, so he has got himself up into P13, sorry. Again, there's more to pit as well ahead of him, so that could potentially get himself turn into a top 10 position then in the next few laps or so. Then Rocket League then into the box then, calling it a day on the first set of intermediate compound tyres as well then, back out of the pit lane. Young Lights then coming through to finish off lap 24. Jinner's picked up a 3-second penalty then. He's coming in the pit lane. There's Jinner as well then. Goodness me then. So Jinner then getting a 3-second penalty then for his troubles then. Calling it a day then on the intermediate compound tyres then. And into the box then for the Mercedes driver then. Good stuff indeed then. Rocket Lee's come out ahead of Young Lights then, which is crucial because Rocket Lee then needs to stay on the lead lap then. Of course, Young Lights, Equaz and R2B yet to pit then. Gordo retakes P4 then, passing Jinner then, who's into the box then. Where is Kiki going to come out in respect to the Mercedes driver then? He's ahead then as well then into P5 then. Favre goes up into P6 then. Where is Cam then? Cam up into P7. Jinner dropping down the field then very dramatically indeed as well then from Mercedes driver then, as out into P9. Then Chappers then looking to go for a move then round the outside, not quite then. Serious Russians past his teammate Ginger Rage, Of course, Mushroom then on much fresher intermediate compound tyres, so he's looking to get himself back in contention. Potentially has to do another stop though. Ginger Age will have to stop at least once, because he will have to, well, technically, actually, he doesn't have to stop in the wet conditions, does he? Because he can go to the end of the Grand Prix from here. I'm not quite sure the tyres will last that long, but yes, he could give it a go, but yeah, I'm not quite sure the tyres would last, and they might get a puncture with that sort of situation. Then trying to do 66 laps on one set of intermediate compound tyres, I would imagine then is not going to be too good for the tyre towards the end of that stint then. So there we go. KD then is back in contention and battling with Cam then for that next position. Then P7 for Cam then, good stuff indeed. Then Jinder of course has pitted and is under pressure from Chappers as well as we go down towards the hairpin here. But Jinder is now on the freshest intermediate compound tyres out there in the field. Out in front, then Young Lights carries on then in towards turn 1. Same for Equaz, same for R2 Beat as well. Then Gordo is now at 12 or just under 13 seconds behind the podium places now as well. Then having made a stop 5 laps ago, then onto the onto a new set of intermediate compound tyres. He's gone purple in sector 3 as well. Brilliant stuff indeed. So far so good then out there. It's been a bit of a quiet point of the race then as it stands, but I think the action, as we've got action for Rocket Lee then. Goodness me, Rocket Lee is off the circuit there as well, and he's had a spin somewhere. Yeah, exit turn 4 or something, and I'm trying to get the car back underway. Kiki's got a 3-second penalty then. That is bad news for Kiki. Then coming through turn 3, I think there, and maybe going a bit wide then at that exit point of the corner. Then unfortunately for Kiki picking up a 3-second penalty, that's going to be costly. Well, it's not going to be costly at the moment then, because he's got a gap then to Farf then and to Cam, who've both got penalties themselves. Katie has dropped off the back of Cam slightly as well then into that into sector 2 now. Chappers then trying to put the pressure on Jinder as well. Then yellow flags again then for Rocket Lee. Rocket Lee is having a frightening time out there, I should say. Just got a 3-second penalty then. Rocket Lee trying to get the car pointed in the right direction then, and unfortunately is not having a great time then in the Ferrari as he's trying to get himself back on circuit here as well. Then he's got a 10-second penalty before exceeding the track limit as well. Goodness me. But there we are then. That is the situation. Unfortunately, Rocket Lee then hoping to get himself back in the pit lane. I don't think he's got damage even, to be fair. I think he might just have had a spin. So he can get himself back underway then. But yeah, unfortunately then he's not had a great lap on this occasion, and he's been lapped then by the race leaders. Of course, the race leaders have to pit still. But yeah, it is he's coming back in the pit lane there as well then. So maybe he has got some damage then to sort out then for Rocket Lee. He's clouded the waters on the edge of the pit lane as well then. So that is bad news for Rocket Lee as well then. He is DNF then. He's retired in the pit lane. He is done and dusted here, unfortunately then for the Ferrari driver. Then Rocket Lee's teammate Moomin Ninja is up into P12 and passing Ginger Age then up into P12 then for the Ferrari. Then ahead now of the McLaren, and storming off then ahead of the Papaya McLaren. Goodness me, not so storming then as well then, because Moomin's gone wide at turn 3. Oh my goodness me, there's almost contact between the two of them then into turn 4 as well then. Ginger Age and hold station then. But Moomin then a bit drifty, let's say then. Oh goodness me, Moomin's still drifting. Reflection's got himself past Ginger Age there as well, and up into P13 then on the fresh intermediate compound tyres. Yellow flags are fluttering for Rocket Lee's Ferrari that's in the middle of the track, but hopefully will get moved out of the way then before Styles catches up to it. But there we go then. Yeah, Styles then coming through turn 1, but Rocket Lee's car is still just, I don't know why it's driving around the track, to be honest. It can just pull over and get out of the way. Right then, Young Lights then yet to make a stop then. So is Equaz, so is R2 Beat. These three, soldiering on. That yellow flag is getting very annoying. And this is why you should, yeah. Well, never mind. We'll just crack on then with what we got. But there we are then. Young Lights then leading the way then. 3.6 seconds the gap. Then the yellow flags hopefully will go away at some point in the future, but fingers crossed we don't have this for the rest of the race. But there we go then into, goodness me, there's contact then from Jinder then getting a bit aggressive then, trying to get himself past Cam then into P7 I should say. But he's got himself past the Kick Sauber as well then. Tomorrow race has gone up to P14. Reflections past Moomin. No, well, goodness me, there's contact again then into turn 1 and 2, and Reflection has passed Moomin. Then he's got the move round, he's got the inside now for turn 3. Then Moomin trying to go around the outside here and trying to keep that move, trying to keep that position then, but I think he's going to have to drop back behind Reflection now as well. The Reflection has got the position, has he? Or no, down the inside goes Moomin Ninja and up into P12, back up into P12. Then Reflection now got the inside for turn 5, and Reflection trying to go through. Then he's got himself through then as well, up into P12, back up into P12. These two battling away. Then Kamara Racer has caught up to the fight as well now. Ginger Age yet to pit in this race then, unfortunately, with that wing damage as well. Then there's no dropping back. Then Kamara Racer has gone off the circuit there, and that is going to be a penalty, or going to be a warning at least, I think, for cutting the corner. But there we go then. Here comes Gordo then back on the charge. Then Gordo back on the charge for P2. Then can he make the move then for the race lead? Then lap 29 then has commenced here as well in Spain, but not quite for Gordo. Unfortunately then into turn 1. Right then Cam is on the back, then Ginner, then KD is in the fight, then so is his teammate Chappers. Serious Mushroom then is not far off this fight as well then, as we cruise then into lap 29 I should say then, into the halfway point of this Grand Prix as well then. The top 3 yet to pit then, and they are soldiering on out there for a one-stop strategy I think here, but we'll have to wait and see if that's going to work out in their favour then. Gordo, who has pitted 8 laps ago now, is only 7 seconds behind the podium places then, and could get himself in contention then to take back those places as well. Then we'll have to wait and see if a 1-stop or a 2-stop is going to be better. Then the majority of the field have gone for a 2-stop strategy here. The top 3 and Ginger Rage then have, and Vessia, of course, but Vessia has pitted earlier on in this race. Then the top 3 and Ginger Rage then have opted for a 1-stop, it looks like, in this Grand Prix. So we'll have to wait and see how they're going to fare then in the rest of this race. Then halfway point coming up then very soon. So far, so good for Young Lights. Then 4.5 seconds the gap now. It's extending in his favour then for the Kick Sauber driver as we go on to lap 30 here of oh dear, he needs to get himself on the grey stuff, not the green stuff. But there we go. Down towards turn 1 then. Lap 30 has commenced then for the Kick Sauber. Then he is leading the way quite comfortably indeed. Then Equaz then P2, but R2, sorry, not R2 beat, yeah, it is R2 beat, goodness me, sorry, I don't know which Aston Martin I'm looking at. The Aston Martins then are in contention then for some good points here as well then, but R2 beat is currently putting the pressure on Equaz as we go through turn 3 then. 4/10 of a second the gap then between P2 and P3. Then Gordo is only 5 seconds away. The gap was over 7 seconds then on the previous lap, so now the tyres kicking in then for Gordo, and he is flying up to the back of this podium train, I suppose you could say, as he is putting the power down, putting the pressure now on to 10-second break for Ginger Age for speeding the pit lane. Unfortunately with Ginger Age, it is compounded his race, and I think that wing damage then was hopefully he can get it sorted in the pit lane this time. Yes, he can. But that wing damage then has been costly indeed then for Ginger Age. But he's going to be on a fresh set of boots and a fresh front wing then, so he can get himself back underway then for the second half of this Grand Prix as well. Here comes R2 Beat then trying to put the pressure on. In 4 seconds, the gap to Gordo is flying out here. Look at him go. He is absolutely flying down here, because this gap then has come down from 7 seconds the previous lap. Then it's come down almost 3 seconds, or over 3 seconds then in this one lap. And that is going to be very costly indeed then for those 3 ahead of him, who are going to be realising that they may have made a mistake here. And Gordo's got a lot of VRS to play with as well then, as we go down towards the end of lap 30 then on to lap 31 then. 3 seconds the gap there, so he's gained almost 4 seconds then in that. He's gained almost 4 seconds then in one lap then as Gordo, I think, if my maths is correct. I can't do maths very well, but there we go. As yellow flags for Hungry Styles. Then Hungry Styles has gone off the circuit there. Back underway then, good stuff indeed. Like I said then, 5 seconds the gap now between Equaz and Young Light, sorry. 4/10 back then to R2 Beat. They're now under 3 seconds to Gordo, who is now flying. Then he's got 20 lap younger tyres than the top 3, and I think this is going to put him in contention for the race win then potentially, because he's going to be flying then for the next few laps or so. The formidable future then for oh goodness me, is Moomin and Kamara Racer then switching places then up into P13 then for Moomin. Kamara Racer trying to put the pressure on the Ferrari then and get himself up into P13 as well then. He's on 5 laps fresher tyres. Then Ginger Rage's got a 3-second penalty then coming through the final couple of corners. Oh dear, drifting it through the final quarter as well then is Ginger Rage then, and trying to get himself back underway. But there we go then, he is flying through now as well. Then R2 Beat is in contention then for a podium place. Then now 2 seconds the gap between his teammate Gordo as well then, who is in P4 then, but he is going to be in the podium places very soon, I think, is Gordo, because I don't think he's going to be too keen on being held up then by his teammate, who's into the pits then is R2 Beat, calling it a day then on the intermediate compound tyres at the end of lap 31, then going into neutral as well then into the pit lane. So yeah, not quite sure that slows the car down much more than going into first and braking. But there we go then, as we head into the pit lane then, into the box then for R2 Beat. Then it is more intermediate compound tyres going on that Aston Martin, and back underway is he? He's been teleported, there we go. But he's dropped down. He's dropped down to P11 then as R2 beat then. So that is going to be bad news indeed. That is going to be where Equaz will be roughly when he pits as well then. And potentially, where is the gap? What's the gap then between R2 beat and Serious Mushroom then? If the gap is over 5 seconds, then that could be where Young Lights will come out as well then. It's not updating for some reason, which is fantastic, but there we go. Fingers crossed it is, well, it's definitely not 1.1 seconds, and as it stands then, Mushroom's already gone through turn 4, I should say then. But yes, okay, brilliant. Right then, we'll get rid of that then, because we don't have to worry about that then. Good stuff. When that does update, if that gap is between sort of 4 and 5 seconds then for R2B to Mushroom, then that will show where Young Lights is going to come out of the pits as well then. When he does make his stop then as well, we'll have to wait and see then, because the gap's still not updating. And Cam picks up another penalty, unfortunately for Cam, but he's in P7 for the time being. Then Young Lights then finishing off lap 32. Then he's staying out again. Then his Young Lights, then he's carrying on to lap 33. Then where is Equaz going to go? Equaz coming into the pit lane, so Equaz is going to come out around the around where R2B has come out of the pit, lane as well. Then behind Serious Mushroom, then behind the top 10. As it stands, Young Lights then is carried on. Then Gordo has carried on, but Gordo's got, well, like I said, 20 lap fresher tyres then. So he's got a 5.5 second gap then to the lead. Then Vessier has left the session again. Unfortunately, with Vessier, then the internet issues that he's having are detrimental then to his race that he's been trying to get himself back into. But unfortunately, it is not working out in his favour. Then Cam has been passed by KD into turn 1. Yep, up into P7 for. P6 for KD then. RTB coming out of the pit lane. No, he's not coming out of the pit lane, sorry. He's got in a battle with Equaz, and these two clouting each other. Then Equaz coming out of the pit lane, I should say then. And RTB has made the undercut work then on the Williams of Equaz, and he's up into P10. But that's a net P2, I think, potentially. Farf and Kiki then switching places as well. We're going to Farf up into P3, then the action starting to unfold. Then Gordo's got a 5 second gap. The gap's come down by half a second, I should say. Then Moomin Ninja's had an issue. It's a safety car here. Safety car has been released now as well. Then that's going to be good news for Young Lights. But Moomin Ninja has crashed into the wall then. So again, we're going to have to get the footage for that then, because that is very odd. He's lost the front wing as well then. Goodness me. Brilliant stuff indeed. Right then, safety car then. Hungry Styles, I don't know why Hungry Styles is pitted then. That is, oh dear, he needs to hope that Gordo is pitting as well then. Yes, he is, thankfully, but Hungry Styles then was very dangerously close to being put onto a not the lead lap, put it that way. But he is out of the pit lane then, and hopefully he will be able to get himself, keep himself ahead then of everybody else who is also coming in the pit lane, far in the pit, as is Kiki. I think we'll see quite a lot of stops here as well then. So Hungry Styles then thankfully is on the lead lap still, just about. And we'll have to get himself past the safety car and catch up to the safety car queue. Jinner has carried on though. Jinner is staying out then. So Young Lights then is, Vessier is back in the session now. Young Lights then has held on to P1. But Jinner has carried on. Jinner carries on in P2 for Jinner now. 9 lap old intermediate compound tyres. Then R2B coming out of the order. Then he's behind Gordo. Equaz then is behind both R2B and Gordo as well. Then unfortunately that did not work out in Equaz's favour then as well. Farf P6 then Kiki in P7. KD P8, then Cam P9, Mushroom then is P10, Chappers P11, then Reflection P12, then Kamara Racer P13. Coop has got himself past Moomin Ninja, who's back in the pit lane and servicing that Ferrari, then to get himself a new front wing. Then Coop then P14, I think, and Moomin then down. Also Vessier then gone through. Then Vessier's not pitted. I don't think Vessier is. Well, I think he might have got himself back in the car now, but I think he might be very wary then of those who. Yes, he might need to think about a pit stop here soon. Ginger Rage then has pitted 4 laps ago. Then he has stayed out. Coop then has just pitted for a new set of intermediate compound tyres. Then P16. Then Moomin Ninja down to P17. Hungry Styles then has got himself past the safety car and trying to catch up to the lead train now. Just lost it on the inside and couldn't keep the car, says Moomin. Yeah, like I said, a bit of a treacherous condition. And to be fair, a treacherous corner then is turn 3 in the wet conditions, that is, in the dry conditions as well, to be fair. But Moomin then back underway then with a new front wing now and can get himself back in the race as well. Then, like I said, waiting for all the drivers to catch up to the safety car queue and get ourselves back underway. That was the first fun half of the race, says Gordo. Right then, half the race to go then, as we're waiting for the likes of Styles, Moomin Ninja, Coop, Ginger Age then, and Vessier to catch up to the pack. Then will Vessier come in the pit lane is the question. because I don't. He might. Hopefully, he's back. I think he's back in the car now, but he needs to try and. I don't know if he's realised that he's not pitted at all then in this race. He has pitted, sorry, in this race, and we put it on lap 3. Hungry Stars picks up a 3-second bonus under the safety car. And Vessia is coming in the pit lane, as is Ginger Rage then, interestingly enough. Ginger Rage coming in as well, then Coop then stays out, so he's going to gain 2 places then up into P14 for Coop. Good stuff indeed then, and Moomin Ninja I think is going to gain 2 places as well then. The Vessia's pit stop and Ginger Rage's pit stop too. Right then, good stuff indeed. We're going to trundle along still, I think, because we've now got 5 cars then trying to catch up to the safety car queue. Unfortunately for Styles, then eventually it will give up and just go back in. Ginger Rage is back in the pit lane for a long time there. He is teleported, so but that is very odd because he was right behind Vessia when he went into the pit lane, so that is interesting. So yes, odd stuff indeed going on in the McLaren garage. Hungry Styles unfortunately hasn't been able to catch up to Ginger Rage then and get himself past the McLaren for P17 then. Only retirement so far is Rocket Lee in the Ferrari, unfortunately in the pit lane. He pit and quit then a few laps ago. Right then, safety car has not dulled the affair just yet then, but we've got what we're going to have. We're going to have about 30 laps of racing. It can be done then on one set of intermediate compound tyres. I'm not sure if Gino will be able to get to the end of the race then. Potentially we'll have to wait and see then if he's going to make another stop or 2, or so I should say, because maybe probably won't be 2. But there we are. Young Lights then holds on to the race lead. Then Gordo as well on fresh intermediate compound tyres. And like I said, R2B and Equaz did pit a lap or 2 before the safety car came out as well then. So far so good then, just waiting for the last couple of people to join up to the safety car queue. We'll get ourselves restarted at the end, I think, of lap 36 then. I think the safety car has been out for 2 laps already then, so it will be in at the end of this lap regardless of whether Ginger Rage or Hungry Styles can catch up to the pack. Anyway, then they will just it will just go into the pit lane and get rid of itself. But that is what we want. We don't want the safety car. We want the green flag racing. Then we want the action, of course, as we get ourselves back underway very soon. Indeed, then one more lap then behind the safety car before we get ourselves restarted here in Spain. Good stuff. I need a bit of a drink quickly. Right then, refreshed and ready to go then for the second half of this race. 30 laps remaining, I should say, then at the end of this one. Then safety car will be in this lap, I would imagine. Hopefully it will be. And we can get ourselves back underway then for the last 30 laps, then the remaining 30 laps then of this Spanish Grand Prix. So far, so good then for the drivers, and who've got themselves through this part of the race. Then rain's still falling here as we get ourselves slowed down now. Young Lights then leads the queue as we get ourselves ready to restart here as well then. And he needs to make sure he gets himself underway. Then unfortunately, he is. It is on the limit then of being in jeopardy of the infringements then of race restarts then, but he has got himself a bit of speed then up into 60 miles per hour. Good stuff indeed. Right then, safety car is back in the pit lane. When will Young Lights drop the hammer and go? He has gone now, I think then, so he is back underway then. Jenner then in P2, safety car lights flashing away then, but he is back in the pit lane now as Bert Mailander. Favre's got a 3-second penalty then going through the final corner, unfortunately for Favre, then that's going to be added on to his race time then. Jenner then is up into P2, back up into P2 after battling then in the opening laps then with Young Lights then for the race lead. He is up into P2 there, but he's got much older tyres compared to the rest of the field. Then Young Lights teammate Can up into P8 now as well, then ahead of KD. A good restart then for the Kick Sauber driver, then up into P8 now and trying to charge on as well here. Good stuff indeed then. Like the field a lot more bunched up now than it has been for the last 37, well, last 30, 34, 35 laps or so. But so far so good then. On the restart, it looks like everyone's got away cleanly at least, which is good stuff. All we can ask for on a restart, especially in these conditions. And now heading into, as Hungry Styles puts up a 3-second motor, unfortunately for him as well, trying to power on in the Red Bull then. But now up the hill then we go then. Gordo then trying to put the pressure on Ginner then. Of course, Ginner is on much older tyres. Here comes Gordo then. Gordo's almost, sorry, Ginner's almost lost 1 second then to the race leader of Young Lions. Then Gordo needs to try and get himself past quickly indeed to try and maximise or minimise the loss then to the race leader. Then contact, I think, between Ginner and Gordo as well there. And I think Gordo then went into the back then of the Mercedes as we went through the hairpin then as well. Then Ginner trying to keep the car under control. Then Kamara Racer picks up another 3-second penalty then, but unfortunately for Kamara Racer, he is having a few troubles out there with penalties, and he's still soldiering on out there as well, which is good stuff to see. Then we've got a bit of a train forming now behind Ginner. Then 1.3 seconds the gap then for the race leader then to P2. Then as Ginner, of course, on the older intermediate compound tyres then is going to be under pressure now as well. Here comes Gordo trying to go around the outside at turn 3. Can he hold the position then on those fresher intermediate compound tyres, drifting it around turn 3, and now in towards sector 2 we go then, side by side between the Mercedes and the Aston Martin, trying to hold it round the outside. Then Gordo then on his fresher intermediate compound tyres. Then is he going to get squeezed? Not quite then, but he's almost lost control of the car then, and Ginner holds on to P2 then. Very close indeed then. Yellow flags, it's for Kiki. Kiki's had a problem then as well somewhere. Where has he gone? Kiki's off the circuit then at turn 4, exit of turn 4 then, goodness me. And back underway then, unfortunately he's lost the right side of that car as well then. Vess is up into P14 ahead. Oh no, he's not. He's dropped down behind Ginger Rage and Coop as well then. Goodness me then. Vess here, and Ginger Rage side by side almost there through turn 6. Not the place to overtake then, sir. Favre's got himself past Equaz. Has he down the inside into the hairpin? Gordo is challenging Ginger then as well then into P2 for Gordo. 2.5 seconds the gap then to the race lead. Ginger dropping down then to P3 I should say then. R2 beat Favre and Equaz then still battling away then side by side then. Equaz trying to go around the outside here, and has he got it? Yes, he has. Then he's held off the Alpine for another attempt, that is, for another lap, that is as well. Then on to lap 39 of 66. Goodness me! Oh my God! What's happened to Cam and KD then off the circuit? In the background then was Cam. Then Sirius Russian snuck through as well. Then Chapper's going through as well here. Up into P9 then. Unfortunately for Cam then, I think he lost the back end then through the final corner then. That was very costly, almost very costly indeed then for Cam, but he has kept it under control. Then Kamara Racer picks up another 3-second penalty, then going through into the final couple of corners. Kiki is in the pit lane then to service the car. Needs a new wing change then. Can go on a new set of intermediate compound tyres then to the end of the Grand Prix. From here I would imagine Sirius Rushman passes the Haas of KD then up into P7 now for the Mushroom then. Good stuff indeed. Mushroom on a late charge here as well. Then Ginner has lost out then to Gordo. Then 2.2 seconds the gap between the Aston Martin and the Kick Sauber for the race lead then between Young Lights and Gordo. Then Ginner 1.3 seconds back, and R2 beat now putting the pressure on the Mercedes driver up the top of the hill. Then we go then into sector 2. Then Ginner's off the circuit then, and now R2 beat might sense his opportunity to try and go around the outside here at the hairpin as we go late on the brakes then for the Aston Martin, and trying to hold it around the outside here as well then, making sure you don't slide the car around too much on those intermediate compound tyres, because that will wear him out quicker as well then. He's got the inside for the next right-hander. Here he comes then round that right-hander as well. Then he's held it very nicely indeed, and Favre, goodness me, Ginner then is Ginner and Favre's trying to stick his nose in there. Don't do that. That is dangerous stuff indeed then. Favre trying to hold on, and Equaz then trying to stick his nose in as well then. Goodness me then, all three of them trying to line up a move then. I think R2B has got himself through this. He has up into P3, and now trying to charge on for some more podium places as well. Then Cam back past KD. Then Cam has got himself composed once again. Then the Minecraft rain is back again as we head into turn 1. Then Cam then back up into P9. My goodness me, 40 laps have commenced, and then Ginner's off the circuit. Then Ginner's had a massive crash then, and Ginner's lost control of the car. Then he's back underway. Is that going to be another safety car then? And I think, goodness me, what has gone on in the background there as well? Then Kamara Racer and Cam. No, Cam's had an issue then as well. Then I think Cam might have had to take evasive action there, and that has cost him dearly then as well. Then because Ginner was all over the place as well. Then as we go into turn 5 now, Reflection snuck ahead then of the Kick Sauer. Then Ginner then has I think he's got some damage. Then he's lost. No, he hasn't lost anything then. So he's well, he doesn't look like he's lost anything then. But he looked like there was debris coming off the cars then as well. Maybe it was Favre's car potentially. We'll have to wait and see then. But there was all sorts of sliding around action there as well then. Yeah, it's Favre's car. Favre's Alpine has got damage then And unfortunately, that right end plate missing then for the Alpine car. That's going to cost him time as well. Serious Russian's going to be eager to get himself past the Alpine now as well then. I'm not sure if he's aware then of Favre's damage, then we'll have to find out. Hopefully he is aware, just in case that car slows down a bit earlier than expected then for Serious Mushroom. And Gordo set the fastest lap of the race then, 2.1 seconds. The gap between the race leaders then. Young Lights then leading the way by just over 2 seconds now as well then. Here comes Mushroom on the charge. Mushroom on the attack then for the P5 position now for the Serious Mushroom. Up into P5, then takes the place away from Favre. Then does he into turn 1? He does, but goodness me, Favre trying to slide his way back through then into turn 2. And now round the outside at turn 3, then Favre makes contact with the McLaren again. Once again, there's more issues between Jinner and Cam. And goodness me, Jinner and Cam then are involved in another incident. Then there's right end plate damage then for the Kick Sauber, and there's right end plate damage then for the Mercedes as well, as they are back underway. Then Kiki is soldier on out there as well. Then fair play to Kiki for keeping going in this race as well. Then hopefully he can get himself back in the contention, I should say, if there's another safety car potentially with the driving that we're seeing between the Mercedes and the Kick Saubers. Potentially that is on the way. But goodness me. I think struggling now on the intermediate compound tyres, on the older intermediate compound tyres is Jinner, and that is what is costing that incident then at turn 3 then on the previous lap then, and whatever's happened there in to turn 1 between Cam and Jinner as well. So unfortunately it's bad news then for those two. As a Kamara racer up into P8 then, getting himself past KD. Then KD's got a left end plate damage as well then, so goodness me, there's all sorts of damage out there now. I think that was caused from Jinner's mishap then in the previous lap then as well then. So unfortunately for KD, he's been affected by that as well, it looks like. And I think Cam had to take avoiding action then as well then, and Favre was also caught up in it too. So that is why Favre's got end plate damage as well then, which is a big shame indeed. Then Reflection trying to get himself past KD here, as is Moomin Ninja up into the top 10 as well now in the Ferrari, and trying to cruise through then into the points pair positions. Then pit stops for Cam and for Jinner as well then. Right then, out in front, gap now 1 second. Gordo has put his pace on then, hasn't he? As Gordo trying to get that gap down, then 10 seconds, 3.7 seconds back to R2 beat his teammate. And yet Equaz then waiting in the wings then, potentially to try and steal away a podium place then in the latter stages. Then 42 laps then have been commenced here in Spain. Then we've got 24 laps to go in this Grand Prix. Then out of the pits comes Cam and Jinner as well. Then unfortunately, not quite sure what Cam is up to then as well, trying to get himself out of the pit lane there. But he is having a few issues, it looks like, then for Cam. But he's got himself back underway here as well, going through turn 3 now. Fresh intermediate compound tyres aren't going to be too bad, actually, at this stage. They can easily get to the end of the Grand Prix, whereas those ahead might start to struggle then towards in the last sort of 5-10 laps or so, trying to get those tyres to the checkered flag. So we'll have to wait and see. Gordo sets the fastest lap of the race then. Gordo now in contention. Young Lights has picked up a penalty somewhere. I didn't see it, but there we go. That's just classic commentary from my side of things anyway. I didn't see it at all, so I don't know. But there we go. Young Lights has picked up a penalty somewhere, so that is going to be good news for Gordo, because he's now within that penalty window of the Kick Sauber as well. Then can RTB try and do the same? Then Equaz then will be looking to try and get himself in the contention as well. Then Serious Mushroom is on a charge as well here. Yellow flags. Jinner's had another issue then at the top of the hill then somewhere. Unfortunately for the Mercedes driver, then having a few problems out there as he goes through into lap 43. We're past lap 35 now, thankfully. But yeah, lap 43 then of 66 then, as we head into the final third, then the final sector then of this Grand Prix, with only 22 laps to go almost, as we cross into lap 44 now. In the next, we're crossing into sector 3 now of lap 43 now, so we'll cross into lap 44 momentarily, but stay with us, so we'll get there eventually. But then we'll have 22 laps then of racing then to the end of the race, and as well yellow flags for Styles. I think that's Styles off the circuit at turn 6. Back underway then is Styles. Unfortunately then losing the back end of that car and having a few problems. Then Kiki then is back underway then, of course, having to make that extra stop as well. Cam then is now trying to chase him down. Then Vessi has got himself past Ginger Rage. Ginger Rage is off the circuit then. Ginger Rage is onto the gravel trap. He kept himself moving, I should say. Then good stuff indeed for Ginger Rage then, but unfortunately that has been costly indeed. He's lost a place then to Coop. Now Vessia is under pressure then from the Williams driver as well. Then we head on to the back straight. Then Favre and Chappers, then switching places. Then Chappers up into P6 now. and looking to storm ahead then of the Alpine driver. Then Moomin has picked up a penalty. Then we'll have a look at the penalty situation then in just a jiffy, as Reflection has, Moomin has got himself past Reflection somewhere as well. Goodness me, I completely missed it, but he's got himself up into P9 now, ahead of the Mercedes driver then as well. Good stuff indeed, and trying to keep it clean and tidy then, I think, is Moomin then, hopefully in the latter stages of this race as well then. Goodness me, 44 laps then have been and gone almost, as we're now into the final third then of this Grand Prix. Then, like I said, a long and arduous race then for the 18 drivers that are still in this race, and hopefully they can get themselves to the checkered flag. Gordo is now under a second behind the race leader of Young Lights there. Here comes Reflection on the back of Moomin, then can he get himself back into P9 then. Oh dear, late on the brakes then, or very early on the brakes for Moomin. I'm not quite sure which one's which then. Yellow flags, it's for Kamara, it's for Cam. Unfortunately, Cam's had an issue somewhere, losing the car then in turn 3, then he's back underway. But unfortunately, just not having the luck out there at the moment then for Cam. Then we'll have to wait and see what happened between himself and Jinner then in the incident earlier on as well. Yes, unfortunately, not good news then, it seems then, between those two. Then Farf now under pressure from Kamara Racer, and Kamara Racer has raced up into P7. Then Kamara Racer was the opposite way round then for Cam and Jinner. Then Jinner and Cam, both of them having a great first half of the race then, and second half of the race so far has not been good then. But Kamara Racer having a horrible first half of the race then has got himself up into P7 here in the second half now, looking strong then for the Racing Bull driver. I don't want to jinx it too much, but he is looking good then at the moment then for some for a good result here in Spain as well then, after of course winning in Monaco only in silver. That was only a couple of weeks ago, or not, a week and a half ago now, wasn't that long ago. Got his first race win of his ALR career then. Gordo is 6/10 away then from Young Lights then into the hairpin of lap 45, as we cruise through this race very quickly indeed then for the race leaders, that is. Unfortunately they have, fortunately for them then, but unfortunately they have just left all of, dear me, that was a very close indeed for Gordo losing the car then, but they have left all the troubles behind for the rest of the drivers, the rest of the field, and these two are cruising off into the distance as it stands. And looking pretty good indeed as well then. Farf then is in the battle then with Kamara Racer then, but Farf then, I think with that wing damage, is going to be demoted down the order then, unfortunately, even more, unless he comes into the pit lane then to get a new wing on that Alpine car then. I'm not quite sure why he hasn't, to be fair. The same for KD as well then. They've lost out then as yellow flags for what's happened. It's for Kiki's had an issue then. Reflections back past Moomin then into turn 1. Back up into P9 then for the Mercedes driver then. Good stuff. Kiki's had an issue somewhere, as Kiki then as what is going on between Cam and Jinner then into the hairpin. And yes, exactly what we don't need to see, because you're just racing like that, then you're going to cause yourself incidents and then cause other people problems as well, especially if you cause safety cars and VSCs needlessly. But there we are then into the penultimate corner. Then we'll have a look on board and see what's going to go on between these two, because I don't think it's going to be good. So we go on to lap 46 then of 66 as well. Then 20 laps remaining in this one. To be fair, if they just wanted to get on with it, then they could get themselves back in this race, as Cam has taken out Jinner then, and that is just appalling driving indeed then from Cam. And unfortunately, I don't think he'll be about for much longer then if he's going to race like that. Then Reflection then has got himself back past, but he's gone late on the brakes then, as these two resuming their fight as well then, it looks like. Jinner then has dropped down behind Cam as well. Then wing damage again for Jinner, and Cam has also got wing damage as well then after going into that incident there. Yes, brilliant stuff indeed. Then Gordo's got himself up into the race lead though, as here he comes then. Gordo then up into P1, then takes the race lead away from Young Lights as well then, with some excellent pace then on this intermediate compound tyres. Then Jinner and Cam then switching places again, and Jinner is retired then in the wall then as well. Safety cars being called out then, and unfortunately that is we saw the end of that then, but there we go. Unfortunately we're not going to have that in ALR, so yes, it's just bad news indeed for both those drivers involved. But anyway, safety car has been called out then. That's good news for Farf then and KD, who've got their wing damage then. Hopefully they can get themselves back into the box then and sort themselves out, but there we go. Fantastic stuff indeed. Gordo's got himself a 10-second penalty for spinning in the pit lane. Then we'll have a look at the situation now. There's 10 seconds for Gordo. There's 3 seconds for Young Lights. There is 15 seconds for Kamara Racer, 12 for Moomin, 9 for Reflection, 6 for Far, 3 for Ginger Rage, 3 for KD, 9 for Hungry Styles, and 3 for Kiki. Everyone will be back in the queue once again. Then we can get ourselves restarted then for this race again. For the second time then, second safety car here as well. This one a bit more uncalled for, but let's say that at the least. But there we go then. Right then, we'll get ourselves back on the way soon. We've only got about, what is that going to be, about 15 laps or so to go at the end of this safety car period. Then 15, 16 laps to go at the end of this safety car period then. So we'll have to wait and see. So yeah, Gordo's got he got that penalty for speeding in the pit lane then, so unfortunately that was why he got that 10-second penalty for speeding in the pits as well then. So he will be having to, well, he said in the comment section he will have to go full send then for the final few laps then to try and get that gap up then to the rest of the field then. We'll wait and see then as Cam has left the session then. So yeah, of course Cam out of the race then, retiring in the pit lane. So technically, obviously penalties permitting them, we'll have to wait and see what the gaps are then when they cross the start-finish lines. Well, there's only one start-finish line, but when they cross the start-finish line at the end of lap 66, then we'll have to wait and see what the order is going to be in terms of the penalty situation as well. Then that will play a factor. Then Chappers, Serious Mushroom, Equaz, R2B, no penalties for them. Same for Coop then, and same for Vessia. Hopefully Vessia was in the car then this time. I think he is now, which is good stuff. Waiting for Kiki to catch up to the queue, then hopefully we can get ourselves back underway for some green flag racing once again. I am very quiet, says Gordo. Yeah, it's probably because I don't want to be talking right now. I'm not in the mood, especially after what caused that safety car. But nonetheless, I will try and cheer myself up then for the last 15 laps or so, because we will crack on then and see what we can do then in this final part of the race now as well. Then hopefully I've loudened myself then for you, Gordo. But nonetheless, don't have to worry about me. Just worry about what you're doing in the race itself. Then safety car in this lap now, and we can get ourselves back underway for some more racing now. Fresh tyres for everybody apart from Hungry Styles then. I'm not quite sure why Hungry Styles didn't come in the pit lane, but he has not anyway, so that is that then. When will Gordo get the race restarted then as well? We'll have to find out now. Safety car is into the pits and back underway we go then, I think. No, we're not going instantly, then that was a bit of a jump start then for Young Lights then, but he's got himself sorted, and now we are underway. Hungry Styles is in the pit then, so Hungry Styles has taken his opportunity to pit now. Unfortunately then that's going to put him down the order quite substantially then as well. Then into turn 1 we go. Then Gordo almost sliding the car through there as he tries to improve the gap then to over 10 seconds then, or over 7 seconds to Young Lights, because of course Young Lights has a 3-second penalty as well then, but over 7 seconds for the rest of, well, 10 seconds for the rest of the field then, including his teammate. But we'll have to wait and see then if it can be done. Then we'll have to find out then at the end of lap 66 that'll be. But now into lap 50 we go then. We have got, what is this, 15 laps remaining after this one. We now go through into sector 2 now as well, down the hill for Gordon, then leading the way then in the Aston Martin. Then there's Young Lights then in P2, would take back the race win. No, wouldn't actually, sorry, he would lose out to RTB, who could get double wins in this back-to-back wins I should say then, after winning in Canada last week as well. Then we will wait and see. As now into the hairpin we go then on lap 50 of 66, then the laps ticking down, then Kiki trying to line up a move then on Vessia, then I think there's a helicopter. There's a police helicopter outside my window. It sounds like, and it looks like it's sounds like it's going to be very dangerous indeed for me. Coop trying to go around down the inside. Sorry, of Ginger Rage. Then has he got the move then for P11? Yes, he has. Just about then, and KD waiting in the wings there as well. Then Gordo's got the fastest lap of the race then, but he's not got that gap up to 10 seconds just yet. But of course, it's only been one lap, so fair enough. But now he's got the fastest lap of the race as well as it stands. Of course, the fastest laps might start to tumble in here as well. Then as everybody's now on a fresh set of intermediate compound tyres. KD all over the back of Ginger Rage, then down the inside at turn 1. Then Ginger Rage moving out of the way then of the Haas car. Then Kiki couldn't get himself past Vessia then into turn 1. And Styles is back underway then in the back of the order, unfortunately. Favre picks up another 3-second penalty. That is bad news for Favre. Again, coming through the exit of turn 3. Oh my goodness me, Young Lights then getting a bit flighty out there into turn 5 then. It would have cost him a bit of time as well then. That's going to be very good news for Gordo. he could use that to his advantage as well now. 8/10 of a second, then the gap between the top four, literally between all four of them. Now it's sorted itself out, but there we go. Then Serious Russian looking strong in P5, potentially with Gordo's penalty as well. Then potentially could get himself into a podium contention as well. Then with Young Lights' penalty as it stands as well. Then, but there's still 15 laps to go, or 14 laps at the end of this one to go in this race. So it's going to be quite a slog then to try and keep yourself within that 3-second window then of Young Lights, who's been charging on in this race. Then earlier on in this race as well, I should say. But so far so good. Then Chappers then P6 looking strong as well in the Haas. Then Kamara Racer doing a good job then P7 for him, moving Ninja as well in the top 8 as it stands then looking strong, as is Reflection, as is Farf then rounding off the top 10. But I think with the penalty situation then Coop is looking to maximise here and could get himself back in contention as well. Down the main straight we go then. Lap 52 has commenced as well. Kiki now and Vessia then side by side in towards turn 1, then late on the brakes for Kiki, then up into P14 now in the Racing Bull car. Good stuff indeed. Then we'll have to wait and see then what the, like I said, what the penalty situation is going to throw up then in the rest of the end of the order, I should say, then at lap 66. But fingers crossed then we can get ourselves to the checkered flag without any more further incidents. Then Young Lights has got himself back under composure then, and back on the attack now of the Aston Martin of Gordo for the race lead. R2B trying to stick with them as well. Then Equaz has lost out to that 1 second window. Not that DRS is important in these conditions, but it is a good indicator of what the pace is looking like as well. Then the top 3 now trying to scamper away from the Williams car. Then Serious Russian then in contention then for that position as well, then trying to get himself into a fight then with Equaz as well potentially, then as is Chappers, who is coming up behind the McLaren driver now as well. So far so good out in front then. 52 laps completed. Then is it starting to dry up out there? We'll have to wait and see. It doesn't look like it's drying up still. It still looks like there's a bit of rain falling from the clouds. As on to lap 53 we go. Then here comes Gordo round the penultimate corner. Gordo's got a 3-second penalty as well. Then goodness me, then he's pushing a bit too hard, and I think it's Gordo. And now he's got 13 seconds of penalties then, which is not the way he wants to go in terms of the penalty situation. But unfortunately he's going to have to get his foot down once again then and go for it a bit harder as well then as he goes into the last few laps then of this Grand Prix as well. So far so good then for Young Lights. So far so good for R2B then, who's in contention for another race win then. And like I said, back-to-back race wins here with the penalty situation for the 2 ahead of them as well. Then 3 seconds for Young Lights, 13 seconds for Gordo. Then Ginger Raid has been passed by Kiki. Then Kiki up into P13 now and trying to get himself back in contention for the points pairing positions as well then, with the penalty situation for those around him, or ahead of him I should say, as well as it stands. Penalty situation for Kiki then is 3 seconds, so it's not as bad as the likes of Farf, Reflection, Moomin and Kamara Racer, so he could gain on those 3, or those 4 I should say then later on in this race. We will find out. Out in front, the gap starting to emerge now as we get ourselves on to lap 35. No, I keep saying lap 35, but I don't know why. But we're on lap 53 now, so we're going to get ourselves further through the laps now instead of going backwards. But so far so good. Then Serious Mushroom then is looking quite strong out here. Look at Serious Mushroom go. Then he's on fresh intermediate compound tyres. He's got no penalties. And he's looking to put the pressure on Equaz then, looking down. Oh, goodness me. I thought he was going a bit too deep into that corner. Then almost losing the back end as well. Then going through into lap 54. Then Gordo's into the fast lap of the race once again. Then here comes Mushroom on the attack. Then can he line up a move then for P4 on track here? Not quite then. I think he's too far back then. But he's almost into the diffuser then of that Williams car. Then heading into turn 1. Goodness me. And he has avoided any issues there. As well. Can't keep up. But there we are. Young Lights then is still holding on to Gordon. Then R2B is back under that 1 second window, but Equaz is now dropping off the top 3 and stands 1.6 seconds. Then as Equaz going wide onto the grass, then a Mushroom could open the door for Mushroom, but not quite then for the McLaren driver. But he is waiting in the wings. Then I think we're getting ready to pounce. Then is Serious Mushroom very soon indeed. Right then, lap 54, and we have got we've got 12 laps remaining at the end of this one. Kamara Racer and Kamara Racer and Moomin have switched places then up into P7 for Moomin Ninja as well. Then of course penalty situation is not in his favour. Then Chappers has got himself past Mushroom. We thought Mushroom was on the attack then with Equaz, but unfortunately he's lost out to Chappers. Moomin Ninja has got himself up into P7 now ahead of Kamara Racer. Kamara might have had an issue then through turn 6 then up the hill and that has opened the door then for the Ferrari driver to go through. Of course, this quartet then have got lots of penalties. Then Coop is 2 seconds behind, but has no penalties at the moment as well. Then that is going to be a good news for Coop then later on in this race. Then here comes Kamara then back on the attack then with the move of Moomin Ninja then in the Ferrari. Then going to go side by side almost into turn 1 then. Who's going to go late? Oh goodness me, Kamara Racer then. That was definitely on you there, sir, but you clouted the Ferrari's rear tyre then, but thankfully nothing bad happened then for either driver, and we can carry on then as we were. Reflection in the fight now. Favre trying to kind of go for a move down the inside here as well. Then Reflection then has to yield then to the Alpine because he was boxed in then by the Racing Bull as well ahead of him. And unfortunately, when you're boxed in, you can't just force the other cars out of the way. You have to just deal with it and be boxed in. So that is well, it's good racing, I suppose you could say, from Favre then to try and get that position then on the Mercedes driver, but he hasn't been able to hold on to it unfortunately into turn 6. Then can he get himself a switchback then up the hill here? Goodness me, this would be a pretty epic overtake if he can hold on to it. I can't see what's going on then. Favre has conceded to Reflection, and Reflection back up into P9. Brilliant stuff indeed. Right then, 1.3 seconds, the gap they're now in front, and Young Lights has had an issue, so Kamara Racer picks up a penalty then as well, going over the top of the hill then, or going into the hairpin, it looks like, unfortunately for Kamara Racer. So there we go. Young Lights then has lost out to over a second then to the race leader of Gordo. Unfortunately, it's not enough for Gordo at this stage. Then his lap 56 starts. Then we've got 10 laps remaining at the end of this one as well. R2 Beat then is in contention for another race win. And like I keep saying, then Equaz then unfortunately is out of that 3-second window of Young Lights then, so he wouldn't be able to get himself in front of the Kick Sauber then with the penalty situation as it stands. Chappers then up into P5, then Serious Mushroom down to P6 then, but is now in contention still then for a good result. Then of course we'll still be able to jump Gordo then with Gordo's penalty for speeding in the pit lane. It was 10 seconds then, and of course his 3-second penalty then added on to his race time as well. Then Moomin Ninja P7 as it stands, then Kamara Racer all over the back then into turn 4 of the Ferrari. Then Reflection holding on, then Young Lights picks up another penalty. That's bad news for Young Lights. Then Reflection and Favre, goodness me, then Reflection and Favre then carrying on their battle from the previous lap then into turn 5, and Reflection has the inside. He has the position still as well. Then good stuff indeed. Young Lights picks up another penalty, unfortunately for Young Lights. That is bad news indeed. There's 1.7 seconds behind the race leader now, and that is just compounding his position in this race, potentially off the podium here as well. Then Equaz now back in contention then for that P2 position, I think there. Chappers could be promoted up to the podium places as well. Then Serious Mushroom in contention as well, then if he can get himself past one of Equaz or Chappers as well in the next few laps or so. Then lap 57 due to commence very soon, or due to commence now as we started off now here for Gordo. Good stuff indeed. Then 1.9 seconds of gap, then 0.3 of a second for R2 Beat. Here he comes then on the charge, then trying to get himself past Young Lights here and down into turn 1 into P2 as well. Then yes, he has done it. He's up into P2 then is R2 Beat, sorry, there's contact from the Kick Sauber in the background, but he has got himself through then up into P2. Then goodness me, as Kiki's got himself past KD as well then into turn 1. Then Kiki up into P12 here and trying to charge on then for that final points pen position or so. Penalty wise then he is currently Kiki's in the top 10 as it stands with the penalty situation as well then. Right then, R2 Beat, is he going to play a bit of a team game here and try and slow down the rest of the field then for his teammate Gordo, or is R2 Beat going to try and get himself just try and keep himself within that 10-second range or 13-second range then of Gordo to try and hold on to the race win for himself and not worry too much about the team orders here? We will find out in the next 9 laps or so. But so far so good then for the Aston Martin pair. Well, not so far so good then for Gordo, because he's going to be demoted down behind Serious Mushroom, I would imagine, at this stage of the race then, but there's still quite a few laps to go then. It depends on what he can salvage then in this race then for Gordo. Now he's got to go as fast as he can, as he said in the comment section, to try and negate that 13 seconds of penalties that he's got racked up now after the speeding in the pit lane infringement then, and that track limits warning as well, or track limits penalty as well then I should say. R2 Beat is not slowing down though. R2 Beat is 1.8 seconds behind the race leader of Gordo then currently then, so they are flying through onto lap 58 here as well then. So far so good then, only a few laps remaining, 8 laps remaining in this Grand Prix. Here comes Kamara Racer then trying to get himself past Moomin Ninja, then down the outside at turn 1 then. Down the outside at turn 1, he's got the move, has he? Yes he has. Then into turn 2, he's ahead into P7 now for the Racing Bull driver. Good stuff indeed. But they've dropped off the top 6 quite dramatically as well then, unfortunately for them, as Kamara's gone wide then, and Moomin Ninja trying to steal back that P7 position. Yes, he has them down the inside and up into turn 4. Oh my goodness me. Oh, there was just lag. Oh god, this is not where you want lag then for Moomin Ninja then. He has done a great job so far. Yes, you don't want, yes, if you can just avoid using the internet for anything else apart from F1 for now, just until the end of lap 66 would be fantastic. Because Moomin Ninja then is oh dear, yeah, well they've lost a lot of time then to the top 6 just on this lap as well now, so unfortunately I think there is some sort of issue then, as here comes Kamara Racer then lining up a move for that position round the outside into the hairpin, and yes, he is going for it. He's side by side. There's contact with Moomin. Moomin, I think, just shutting the door then on the racing ball then, and Kamara then stays P8 then. Far from Reflection resuming their battling as well behind, and Reflection lining up a move potentially then for one of these two as well ahead of him then for P7 potentially into the next lap or so. Then lap 59 has commenced, and here comes Moomin, here comes Reflection, here comes Kamara Racer then as well, using the slipstream then to his advantage. Then Moomin has moved once, then Moomin has moved twice now as well, so Moomin can't move again in this straight as well. Then now into turn 1 then, unfortunately he has well, unfortunately, sorry, for Kamara Racer, he's held on to the place then, but unfortunately, like I said, Moomin then getting a bit almost caught up with the rule book then as well. Then that's going to be very dodgy stuff indeed. And RTB is on a charge then. RTB has got that gap down from 2 seconds down to 1.3 then, far from Reflection. Moomin and Kamara then, Moomin and Kamara then. Kamara has got himself ahead now. Favre's got himself ahead of Reflection, has he? Moomin has dropped down behind Favre. No, he hasn't. Yes, he has. Where is he? There he is then, goodness me. I will switch on board with Reflection, as you can see the two ahead of us now. Yes, so all sorts of changes in the order then. I think all 4 of them have moved position in that corner. So there we go then, up into P9 for Faf now, moving down to P8 then, Reflection down to P10, then Kiki is now caught up, and Kiki is now P11, and Kiki with only 3 seconds penalties then is in contention then to gain on all 4 drivers ahead of him and get himself into P7 here, I believe, then at the end of this Grand Prix. But he might want some more of that then, as, oh dear, there's might have been some contact there between Coop and Kiki. Reflection sliding a bit around that hairpin, then he's got himself back underway. Goodness me. Lap 59 then has turned into lap 60 now, as what has happened then, Kiki then has lost the back end of the car then, and goodness me then, unfortunately he's dropped down to P14 again then, so unfortunately for Kiki then, he's going to have to do all the hard work once again then. He's not far off, and he's got a 3-second penalty then for his troubles as well then. Goodness me then, you can't write it then for Kiki then. He's not had the luck out there, has he? But again, still with the penalty situation, he could still gain some places, could still get himself into the top 10. As he is not too far back then at this stage of the race. Then Hungry Stars unfortunately has been lapped, I believe, or almost will be lapped then, unfortunately, at this stage of the race. Then Gordo then on lap 60 then is leading the way then by 1.4 seconds. Then it's 6/10 back to Young Lights then in P3, who's got 6 seconds of penalties as well. Then we'll switch on to the penalty situation then as we get into the dying embers of this race as well. And there we go then, 13 seconds for Gordo then. RTB would inherit the win, then Young Lights will drop off the podium places, then Equaz then back into P2, I would imagine. And Chappers P3, then Mushroom then P4, I think, as it stands. And that will be that then. There's a lot of penalties then for drivers behind then. KD then could promote himself up into the top 10. Same for Coop then, with no penalties then for the Williams driver as well then. Brilliant stuff indeed. Then Kiki and Ginger Rage then might be in contention with the penalty situation then. Ginger Rage might be in contention for some points here as well then. We'll have to wait and see. But it is getting quite close out there as well. Vessia, you never know, Vessia might even get himself some points as well here, even though he's down in P15 as it stands. So it is not all doom and gloom then. Hungry Stars has been lapped then. 61 laps have commenced now as well then. 5 laps remaining at the end of this one. Yellow flags. It's for Hungry Stars then. He's just trying to get out of the way then of the rest of the field. Then Moomin has been passed by Farf into turn 1 then. Moomin now down to P9 then. Farf up into P8 then. We've had some more changes as well. Kiki up into P13 ahead of Ginger Rage, and that could be costly for Ginger Rage in the race for some points paying positions. Then he needs to stay within 6 seconds of Reflection and Moomin Ninja. Then he needs to stay within 3 seconds of Farf, and he is. I think he'll be all right then with Kamara Race. Kamara's got 18 seconds penalties then. Oh, Moomin Ninja's sliding his way through the corner. Then that is going to be costly indeed. Then Reflection almost doing the same thing as well. Then Coop then is now all over the back of this pair as well. Then Hungry Styles causing yellow flags once again then, as I think just letting the rest of the field go through. Then Hungry Styles then has been lapped then by the whole field, unfortunately. Then 15 drivers then have gone through, passing the Red Bull car, who's not having a great time out there, unfortunately. Gordo and R2B then are now in contention for a race-ending battle. Then Moomin has got himself back past Reflection, has he? Yes, he has. They've lost out a lot of time though to Farf now as well. with this battling. It's going to be costly for Kiki and for Ginger Race if they want to get themselves further up the order then with the penalty situation. Then for those ahead, they've now lost 2 seconds then to Favre, which is going to be very costly indeed then, as they need to stay within need to stay within 3 seconds of Favre, don't they? So that is going to be well, I think actually, unfortunately for Kiki and for Ginger Race, they have lost out then to that 3-second window then to the Alpine driver then as we go into turn 1. Contact between Reflection and Moomin again into turn 1. Then now Coop trying to go around the outside of the Mercedes driver. Then not quite then for the Williams driver. Then, but unfortunately, this battling is costing everybody apart from Favre and Kamara Racer. Then this is going to be great news for Kamara Racer and Favre. Reflection and KD then switching places as well into turn 4. And unfortunately for Reflection, I think he's lost out then to 2 drivers. Then as we go through into turn 3, then the contact then between Moomin and Reflection. Then Moomin, I think, went late on the brakes then on the inside. Then Ginger Rage picks up a 3-second penalty. Unfortunately for Ginger Rage, that's going to be I think that's going to be compounding his race then, but he's doing a good job then of soldiering on out there as well then compared to others. And Kiki, what has happened to Kiki then? Almost opening the door then for the McLaren driver. Then he needs to going forward then, does Kiki, rather than looking backwards. Then he needs to get himself moving forward as quickly as possible. Then lap 62 turning into lap 63 here now. We've got 4 laps remaining of this Grand Prix here finally. And we can get ourselves wrapped up then. We still don't have a clue what's going to be happening in terms of the penalty situations. Then we think R2B is going to win. We think Equaz is going to be P2. And we think Chappers, well, Chappers might be P2 actually. Here as he goes for a move then down the inside of turn 1. Not quite then on Equaz. Equaz holds on then, and Chappers almost losing the car then through turn 2 then, but he's got himself under control then. Serious Mushroom then waiting in the wings as well then for any mishaps, I suppose you could say. Moomin Ninja is having a few issues out there. He's backed off now and unfortunately lost a lot of time then to Favre and Kamara Racer, who are now in a bit of a race on their own now, these two here. As Moomin Ninja is now a bit further back then, 3.7 seconds back. Then Coop into the top 10 then already without the penalty situation. Then will get himself ahead of the 3 ahead of him, up into P7 then for the Williams driver then, looking quite strong out there indeed. KD as well can get promoted up the order then with the only 3 seconds that he's got as well. Then Reflection unfortunately will lose out to quite a few drivers as well. Then Kiki could get himself into the points once again then, as could unfortunately not for Ginger Age, I think, but Vessia could actually as well. So there could be quite a lot of movers and shakers then as they cross the start finish line here. R2 Beat then is looking to get a move on as well now, but looking to get a move on before the start finish line of lap 66. He might look to get a move on lap 64 here as we go round into that 64th lap and start off with 3 laps remaining here as well. Then here comes R2 Beat then on the charge. Then Young Lights as well in the fight as well. Then these 3 are going to be battling then to the checkered flag. Then Kiki's had an issue and Kiki's had another issue then, unfortunately for Kiki. I really feel very sorry for Kiki because he was in contention then for I should say then for another good result. Then unfortunately he's lost the car and he's coming in the pit lane as well. Then I think that's going to be a pit and quit for Kiki as well then, which is a shame. He could actually go for the fastest lap here as well then if he goes for another set of intermediate compound tyres, because it's been intermediate compound tyres for the whole race. So he could go for a fastest lap point. And fair play to Kiki. I think he is going to go for that as well, which is great news indeed. Well done to Kiki, as Moomin, Ninja and Coop are side by side and clouting into each other as well. And there we go then. As oh goodness me, it's 3 wide then as KD has gone for a move then on both of them. And goodness me, what a dive bomb that was from KD. Reflection's gone through. Oh my god. And Coop is and there's contact, and Coop has been forced off the circuit there. And yes, brilliant stuff indeed. Then Ginger Rage has gone very wide then into the top of the hill. Then he's gone off the circuit then onto the gravel trap again. Then with Ginger Rage unfortunately recovering the car then. But like I was saying then, Moomin and what is going on here then? Moomin and Coop then are still battling away then side by side and going through into sector 3 now. As yes, it's just costing them more time than is this battling then. Unfortunately, I don't think they've realised that, but there we go then on to lap 65. The penultimate lap of the Grand Prix has finally commenced, and Moomin is into the pit lane. So that was brilliant stuff indeed. Not quite sure what's happening from Moomin. Yes, he can go for the fastest lap of the race, I should say here. But yes, a bit of a weird one that, but nonetheless, it is done and dusted at least. Goodness me. Right then, KD is he's not in contention to gain a place on Favre actually. So he would only gain 1 place on Kamara Racing as it stands. Favre needs to try and keep that gap at over 6 seconds to KD. Then Coop is in contention then to get himself past all of the drivers ahead of him, I think. Well, all of them up into P7, I should say. But we'll come back to that one as well. Then out in front, then the Aston Martins lying astern. Then 0.4 of a second separate them as we cross into the final couple of corners to finish off lap 65 of 66. Then on to the final lap of the Grand Prix we go in the next few seconds here as well. Down the hill once again then for the penultimate time. Then here comes Gordon then leading us away then on to the final lap. Then he has got himself a quite sizable gap then over the rest of the field then, but unfortunately I think it's not enough then to hold on to that position then, to hold on to the to hold on to a podium place, I should say then, because of course the penalties will demote him down the order. Goodness me, then R2B almost into the back of his teammate then, as Gordon then having a massive slide then almost cost both Aston Martin drivers then. His movement is out of the pit lane then, and he's dropped down behind Kiki here. Kiki, of course, has pitted for the fastest lap point as well. So both those two trying to challenge then in the last lap of this race then. Gordo then drifting around the corners then, and I'm not quite sure if Gordo is going to improve on his gap, on his race lead, I should say, with this sort of driving then, because he's just costing himself more time then on the final lap of the Grand Prix as well. Then these the top three then are, well, they're not separated exactly by half a second then in terms of time then on track because of the penalty situations then that will be added onto their race times at the end of the Grand Prix. But they are very close on track now. Kiki sets the fastest lap of the race then. Brilliant stuff indeed from Kiki for keeping going in this one, and can get to the checkered flag then and try and hold on to that hold on to that fastest lap as well then. Great stuff indeed then. Here comes our race leaders though. Through into sector 3 then. Only 2 corners remain then for our race leaders as we cross into the end of lap 66 then. Here comes Gordo then to finish off the race then. Unfortunately with the penalties there, he'll be demoted down the order there, but we will wait and see who is going to finish in what order. R2B wins the Grand Prix then with a fantastic performance then as well then. R2B once again then a race winner then, back-to-back race wins for R2B then. Equaz P2, Chappers 0.4 of a second then away in P3, Serious Mushroom P4, Young Lights P5, then Gordo P6, then Favre P7, Kamara Racer down to P8. Then I think we might see some more changes. Then KD up into P7 ahead of Favre. Then Coop up into P7 ahead of KD in 8th. Then Favre P9. Vessia does get P10. Brilliant stuff indeed. Movement Ninja is retired on the circuit, and unfortunately for him, that is him out of the race. Then Kamara Racer P11, Ginger Rage P12, Reflection P13. Then Kiki then, if he can get himself to the checkered flag, will finish in P14, but he will get the fastest lap point as well, which will be good stuff indeed for the Racing Bull driver and for the Racing Bull team as well then. So it's not all doom and gloom then in this race then for the Racing Bull driver of Kiki as he crosses the line then to finish off the race as well. Brilliant stuff indeed. Nice battle, says R2B then in the comment section. Another race win then for our Aston Martin driver. Then Vessia picks up a driver today then from the game, that is, but we didn't unfortunately have a driver of the day poll, so there we are then. Well done R2B then. Cannot believe I've done that, so stupid, says Gordon. And I think he's referring to the penalty situation, nothing else, that he hasn't done anything else that stupid. So no, fair play to Gordon as well then. It's not an easy thing to do, especially in the conditions then, getting yourself slowed down for the pit lane in these conditions. And so R2B then takes the race win here in Spain. Back-to-back race wins then for the Aston Martin driver then. Equaz P2 in the Williams then, and Chappers then in the Haas, reserving tonight in place of Mumford and Keys. Is in P3, sorry, rounds off the podium places as well then. Brilliant stuff indeed then from all the drivers who managed to get to the checkered flag in this one then. A bit of a difficult race then in these conditions as well then. Kiki does get the fastest lap of the race, 22.657 then for the Racing Bull driver then. Sorry, we'll go through the classification, sorry then. R2B wins the race then. Equaz P2, Chappers P3, Serious Mushroom P4, Young Lights P5, Gordo P6, Coop in P7, KD P8, then Favre P9 and Vessia rounds off the top 10. Brilliant stuff from Vessia then, keeping going in this race then, getting himself a point in the end as well then. Kamara Racer P11, then Reflection P13, Kiki P14, Moomin P15, Hungry Styles P16, Cam P17, Jenna P18, Rocket Lee then P19, and unfortunately for Don of the Dons, he didn't join in time for us to get himself a full grid. Fantastic stuff indeed then. We will hopefully get some interviews underway then very shortly, but bear with us whilst we get that all sorted and set up then. A fantastic race then for the Spanish Grand Prix then. I think we've been joined then by Rick. Then Rick, another win then for yourself. Back-to-back wins then. You must be feeling pretty good after that.
Yeah, it was an awesome race in the rain. for the first time full race in the rain, and I started on pole position, and that's nothing for me. So I was surprised by the pole. And then we started in the rain, and my start was really awful. So I needed to gain a lot of places in the end. And yeah, the safety car midway helped. So yeah, phew, it was intense. Let's say it like
And
that.
like you said, it was a full wet race then, and you had a bit of a difficult time on the race start. Then all that way back on lap one now, but you recovered very well then in that race, and you were racing pretty well in the after you got yourself sorted after the start. Then you were racing pretty well for the top five, top six. Then in that first stint, then and when the you decided I think you were trying to do the one stop. Was that correct then before the safety car came out on lap 30? I think it was.
Yeah, I was Gordo was gaining a lot on us, so yeah, I wanted to try two different strategies. So Gordo on a two stop and me on a one stop. So right before he was on my tail, I thought, okay, I went in. It's 2 laps early, but then yeah, we got a late safety car again. So I think everybody was on the same tires in the end. I'm not
Exactly.
sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, the strategy went all overboard at the last safety car, but I had the pace for the first place as well, and I kept it clean again, no penalties. But this time I also had a feeling that if I get maybe 20 more laps, I could have got Gordo.
Well, you did a great job indeed then as well. Another race win, like I said, back-to-back race wins then for R2B then in the Aston Martin. Then fantastic stuff indeed then, and looking pretty strong indeed as well then for the next race, which I believe is Austria. I think it is. I'm not quite sure, but I'll have to double check that. But well done then to R2B, our race winner here tonight then as well. Chappers, I think, has joined us then in the Haas P3 tonight. Then you were 4/10 away from a podium, actually, from P2 actually at the end. Then, but you said in the comment section, finally a podium as well. A podium then here tonight. Then in 100% distance Spain in these horrible conditions. And how does that feel indeed for yourself?
To be honest, it feels a bit weird to say that I've done it because it's my first one and in conditions that I don't particularly like. But yeah, 4 temps off a P2, we take it. But I was only here tonight to kind of fill the grid, and I didn't want to kind of interfere with any of the full-time 100% drivers. So I kind of just kept in my own lane and just stayed at the most consistent pace as I could. And yeah, we brought it home for a surprising P3 because I didn't know if the top two had any penalties. I knew Young Lights in third had a 6 second, but I didn't know about the other two in front. So I kind of just stayed behind Equator because I knew he was the championship leader. I didn't want to go for any silly moves on him. And yeah, we got P3 through the pens.
A fantastic result indeed, and like you said, in those conditions, in 66 laps, and it's not too easy. Then, so fair play, indeed. Then a very good race indeed from Chappers as well. Then you're going to come back for some more 100% racing then in the future.
I do hope I can. Normally my Wednesdays are filled, and I'm racing elsewhere at the same time as 100%. But maybe in the future, or I can do next week potentially. But after that, I won't be able to do it for a little while. But maybe when I can again, I'll venture out on track again 100%.
Great stuff indeed, and congratulations then to Chappers and P3 here
Thank you very
tonight then
much.
in the Haas as well. Then unfortunately, I don't think Equaz has joined us, but Equaz, well done to you, well done to you as well. Sorry, sir, for P2 in the Williams as well. Then, and of course, like I said, carrying on his impressive stance at the top of the championship as well. Fantastic stuff indeed. Like I said, next week I think we're in Austria then for 100% racing. We've got more ALR action coming up here in Spain for gold, silver, and bronze then from Sunday night. Then, so stay tuned to ALR. There's plenty more action coming up then, and we'll see you very soon.